What is up, everybody? Sorry about the little delay right there. How's everybody doing? This is my first ever live stream on YouTube, so I was getting all the audio set up, getting the video feed set up, making sure that everything was okay. Sorry about the little... Yeah, cool. So, yeah, this is my first YouTube live stream. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to start doing more and more live streams as we go. I'm excited to interact with the chat. I'm excited to chat with you guys, learn more about you. You guys can say anything. I'll read it. As I do more live streams, I'll get to know you guys more and more. I'm excited to see some recurring faces in here. I can turn it up a little bit for you since you said it's low. Can you guys hear Howard Stern when I play this clip? Let me know.
The real president of the United States.
I just want to make sure that you guys can hear that clip as well. Make sure that everything is going. What is up, John Worrell from New Brunswick? I see you in my comments all the time. I see a lot of familiar faces. That I see. Yeah, say anything you want, Jaden. I had this screen ready to show you guys that you know what, I'll just show it to you really quickly. So my friends Jaden and Morgan made this song based off my Mike Lindell debate, and it's my new loading screen. I was gonna play it for you guys, but I completely forgot. Let me go play this for just 1 second, then I'll come back.
The uniparty. Is there going to be corruption in it? Absolutely, 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 absolutely. Open your eyes. I call it the uniparty. Is there going to be corruption?
That's all you guys get to see for now. I hear you guys saying that the Howard Stern audio is low, so I'm turning up Howard Stern, and let's get into this. Let me know how you guys are doing today in the chat. I want to get to know you guys a little bit before we start this. But the reason I'm live streaming this Howard Stern interview is because President Biden had an amazing appearance on Howard Stern about a month ago on May 3rd, and every time I ask someone if they've watched this interview, they say no. Even my like liberal grandpa, my liberal family, they say no, they haven't heard President Biden on Howard Stern, and that's scary because it's a great interview. Let me know if this is better now.
States of America, President Joe Biden, and welcome.
I think I should leave now.
Yeah, it's a pretty good introduction. I know everyone's going to think I'm doing a fake interview with you, but yet you are really here.
How's that? Somebody in chat asked what my streaming schedule is going to be like. I'm still figuring that out. Lamps on spinals. I'll be probably streaming like every other day, maybe every day. What's up, Steve from Kentucky? What's up, Salt Life FL? Alec, how you doing? Mr. Kenneth, nice to see all of you guys joining on the stream. Just letting everyone get in here. Okay, now the sound quality is good with Howard. Awesome. What's up, Michael Jones? Thank you for listening to me, Michael. I appreciate that. What's up, Transfemme Princess? Yeah, it's really worth watching in full, I promise you. President Biden goes into a lot of the loss in his life, and it's really beautiful. He tells a lot of great stories. And yeah, let's start this now that we have some people funneling in here.
And
Happy to be here.
And I played Bruce Springsteen because he did this at your inauguration.
Yep.
Building your online
I
business?
figured that'd be a good way to start things off.
It is. I like him.
Yeah, no, he's terrific, and I know he's a big fan of yours too. By the way, but as we start, I have to compliment you on something. Yesterday, you did something so great, and I don't know how many people are aware of it, but you got this thing with the airline passed, that now when an airline, for some reason, screws you up and doesn't let you, whether you can't make the flight, they used to give you credit.
Thank you for that dono, Winthrop. Keep up the great work. Big support from Los Angeles. If I'm in Los Angeles, I will let you know. If you guys see Jaden Swales in the chat, that is my cameraman. He goes to Trump rallies with me. He's got the J profile picture, so if you guys interact with him, great guy right there. Things are going good here in Glasgow, Scotland. Wow, that is awesome. From New York, Lamp is from New York, and his family is voting blue. That is great. I sure hope he doesn't bring up his Epstein plane trips. Oh, wait, that wasn't him. Yeah, did you see that clip of Donald Trump in an interview with Fox and Friends, and they ask him about Epstein? He starts to kind of stutter. They ask him a bunch of questions, and he's fine on all of them, or he's fine on all of them, then he stutters right when they ask him about Epstein. It's pretty funny. But, yeah, so let's watch this. Let's talk about it. Let's see what President Biden has to say. Letting everybody roll in here. I don't know, I teared up while watching a few clips from his interview. I'm not going to lie. I teared up listening to President Biden talk about the loss in his life. Julie W. said, Adam, your work appeals to young and old alike. Great job. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for watching so much. Greetings from New Hampshire. Hey, Elizabeth, we were in New Hampshire a few weeks back. Yeah, no. As Wendy says, this interview isn't new. This interview didn't happen like today. It happened on May 3rd of last month, but it's still timeless, and so many people have not seen it. So if you have not seen this interview of President Biden, either watch it with me now, you can go watch it on Howard Stern later, or just come back to this video whenever you can in your car ride or whatever. But yeah, so let's listen to Howard Stern. Sorry, I've been taking too long. He starts by asking about this new airline bill he passed. Watch.
By the way, but as we start, I have to compliment you on something. Yesterday, you did something so great, and I don't know how many people are aware of it, but you got this thing with the airline passed, that now when an airline, for some reason, screws you up and doesn't let you, whether you can't make the flight, they used to give you a credit, but now they are forced to refund you. And, I think that's a huge deal.
Well, there's a lot of those, Howard. The fact is that when you're raised and you come up in a middle-class family, all this stuff matters to you. It matters to those little items that they say, well, it only costs this, only costs that.
Yeah.
It matters. And so there's a lot of junk fees, too. For example, banks can't charge you $35 for overdrafts anymore. They'll charge you $3 or $8. I mean, whole range of things that matter. My dad used to say at the end of the month is how much you got left.
Yeah.
How much you got left.
Right. Speaking of your dad, you mind if I take you back in
No,
time?
whatever you want to ask.
Okay, because this is thrilling for me, and I'm just really excited you're here. My nerves have to...
I just find this stuff fascinating really quick. I'm going to be pausing it a lot, so if you guys have to complain, just let me know in the chat. I'm going to be pausing it, chatting about it. So a few things that you'll notice during this interview is that President Biden is actually not senile. Contrary to popular belief in right-wing media, President Biden was able to give an hour and 13-minute interview, and he does amazing the entire time. Throughout the entire interview, he is killing it. Of course, he's a little bit old and he stutters a lot. You'll hear him stutter, but if you listen to this interview, he is more of a genuine and compassionate man than Donald Trump will ever be. This dude has more compassion in his left pinky toe than Donald Trump has in his entire body, and he's a fascinating person too. So we get to learn about his life. He talks about how when he was a kid, him and his friends used to flip a coin to pick up girls. He used to be a terrible student in school. He barely got through class. He's cheated sometimes. So it's just really interesting to hear how he's a fascinating human being, and he ended up in the presidency, the office of the presidency, after this insane life of 80 years. He finally makes it to where he always wanted to be, and it's just wild. So yeah, we'll keep going. Also, I really like the way Biden interacts with people. He's so cool. So listen to when Howard Stern asks him right here, is it cool if we dig into your past? And he goes, yeah, man, of course, yeah. He's just such a nice guy. Brandon H says, I wish I had Howard's hair. Absolutely. Howard Stern is a legend. Hey, from Germany. What's up, Nino? How you doing? In Europe, we laugh at Trump and the Americans who vote for him. It's so funny that he pushes this narrative that when he was president, America was respected all over the world. That is so funny. We could talk about this more later, but Donald Trump genuinely went on stage. I think it was at a NATO summit, and they all started laughing at him, laughing at how dumb he sounds. There were multiple occasions when Donald Trump was interacting with world leaders, our allies like Angela Merkel or Justin Trudeau, and they would just make fun of him. He is such an easy person to make fun of. But yeah, listen to what Biden says right here when Howard asked him, is it okay if we go into your past? I just love the way Biden talks to people.
Okay, because this is thrilling for Dad. You mind if I take you back in
No,
time?
whatever you want to ask.
Okay,
Whatever you
because
wanna
this
ask,
is
man.
thrilling
Whatever
for
you
me,
wanna ask.
and I'm just really excited you're here. My nerves have to... I'm really nervous, and I've been
Oh.
doing this forever. I'm nervous, man. I really am. But going back to your father, was your father a political guy or your mother? Was it a political family?
No, they weren't political. They were engaged, and they voted all the time. And my mom and dad were... There were people who were just typical middle-class people whose values mattered a lot to them. I mean, it was constantly banged in our heads. Like my dad, I have it on my desk. You got to come to my Oval Office and see it. I was complaining one day. I was showing my dad came over to do a fundraiser at my house. I had been a senator a long time. He was going to be there with me. We're standing out in the back overlooking this little pond. And I said, I sure wish my deceased wife could see this. She liked the upstate New York. And my dad said, I'll be back in a minute. He went up to a local Hallmark store, and he came back with a framed photograph of Hagar the Horrible with two seams in it. Hagar's boat is struck by lightning and is going down, and he has his hand up in the sky and said, why me, God? And the next line is, why not? My dad said, what makes you special? It's going to happen to you, too.
Wow.
That was my dad. You never complain, you never explain.
See, the reason I think yours, everyone I know who knows you says one thing about the president. He is a compassionate.
Really quickly, so the image that Biden is talking about here, let me pull this up. So he's talking about an image of Hagar the Horrible, which was an old comic strip. Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys so you know what he's talking about. And then really quickly in chat, Polly Sim says, the problem I'm having is that eggs are $8 a dozen. I know, Polly. Inflation genuinely sucks for everybody. Inflation genuinely sucks. Like going to the store and seeing that things are more expensive, it hurts. And nobody likes that. But it's not a function of President Biden. And it's a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, inflation is happening worldwide. I get that it sucks. I mean, there's no way around saying that it sucks. I think that's something the Democrats kind of... On their messaging, it's really easy to pull out numbers and say the economy is doing great, but people feel it on a day-to-day basis. That is totally true. Jesse Pinkman, what is up? One of my favorite fans. Greetings from Alaska, on the run from the cops. Kidding. And my friends Mike City, Philly, yo. How you doing, Jesse Pinkman? I always like seeing you in my comments. Breaking Bad is my favorite show. Anyone seen Breaking Bad in this chat? But, okay. So President Biden was just... telling a story about how when he lost his first wife to a car crash, and he was looking over a pond, and he was talking to his dad, and he was saying, I wish my wife could be here with me looking at this pond. And his dad went to the store and grabbed this picture frame right here, if you guys can see it. It's of Hagar the Horrible, and it says, why me, why not? It's a picture of his boat getting struck by lightning. And what Biden is saying, basically, or what this poster is saying, is that, like, how I took it, at least, and I think how Biden took it, is that when God, so to speak, when God puts you through pain, it's quite indiscriminate. Like, you're not being targeted or anything. You're not being targeted. You're not just going through pain. Everybody's going through pain, but God doesn't discriminate. This is what Biden thinks, basically, is that he's just indiscriminate. That it's not just you being targeted. Why me? It's that everybody goes through pain. And now he keeps this on the White House desk. Decades later, he keeps this on the White House desk because his dad gave this to him. And yeah, now people in chat are talking about eggs. I paid $5 for 2 dozen eggs. Yeah, there's ways to get eggs cheaper for sure. But I think eggs just do sort of, or things are more expensive, like objectively, and it's hard to explain that to somebody who doesn't pay attention to politics. Like, if I'm talking to a MAGA supporter and they say things have gotten a lot more... Adam, this picture you pulled up, wow, value added. Yeah, no, let me pull this picture back up. It's really wild. I'll replay what he's saying, but it's really easy to it's really easy to look at stats and think inflation isn't bad, but it definitely is. But yeah, here's the Hagar the Horrible thing. It's crazy to me that Biden keeps this on his desk decades later. Why me? Why not? Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Let's keep watching. Listen to what he said here.
Way back in Maine, he went up to a local Hallmark store, and he came back with a framed photograph of Hagar the Horrible with 2 seams in it. Hagar's boat is struck by lightning and it's going down, and he has his hand up in the sky and said, why me, God? And the next line is, why not? My dad said, what makes you special? It's going to happen to you too.
Wow.
That was my dad. You never complain, you never explain.
See, the reason I think everyone I know who knows you says one thing about the president.
No, I get that, Polly, that things are more expensive, and there's no denying that. It's just, like, what are you going to draw from that? When things are more expensive, are you going to... When I talk to MAGA supporters, what I was trying to say, when I talk to a MAGA supporter and they say that things are more expensive, I can tell that they don't really engage with politics deeper than that. And the main reason that they're voting for Donald Trump is because prices went up. So what am I going to say to this person who doesn't talk politics? Am I going to say, oh, inflation was global. America had the lowest inflation in the world, and it was because of supply chain issues and greedflation. If I start debating them on politics or I start explaining these stats, it feels like I'm undermining their personal lived experience when, like, yeah, things are more expensive. So it's a hard topic to talk about.
He is a compassionate guy. And
and as Wild Woman points out, real wages have been outpacing inflation. But still, like, when I'm talking to a MAGA supporter, if they tell me that they're struggling on a day-to-day basis, if my response to that is, yeah, but real wages have gone up, they're going to be like, yeah, you're undermining my lived... So it's really hard to navigate that. So I just say, like, yeah, inflation sucks for everybody, of course. But, like, what are you going to draw from that? Are you going to start voting for Trump because of inflation? Obviously you won't, Polly, but it's just like... It sucks, yeah.
I feel like your father was really behind you and really on your team. And what was striking to me about your father is, before you were born, your father had money. He had means. He was doing well in life.
Yep.
And then he lost everything.
Yep.
And in your life, you've been surrounded by so much loss. And I said, if I ever get to meet you, I want to ask you about this. And this is the theme: how you deal with loss. But even you were born, you had a father who had to be depressed in some way because he had affluence, and he lost it all. Did that affect your early life?
No, because my dad, there used to be a joke in the family. My dad get up and he'd always be whistling in the morning. My dad was one of these guys that said, tomorrow's going to be better. I mean, for real. My dad was a guy who, the one thing my dad cared most about was dignity, people's dignity, and being treated with dignity.
Last pause, and I'm done for a bit, I promise. I know you guys want to watch the interview, but Alec said, it's a bummer because the economic issues are real. However, something is complex and has many input variables, as global economics cannot be made so simple. That is incredibly true, and that's what I struggle with when I talk to MAGA supporters who are just talking about the economy, because it's like, what am I going to undermine their lived experience with statistics? Am I going to tell them they're not struggling on a day-to-day basis? Yeah.
And my dad used to have an expression. He'd say, Joey, your job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity.
True.
It's about respect. It's about being treated with respect. And to my dad, but I always admired my dad because he did have a lot. There's a famous phrase in the family. When my dad really wants to, when my mom would really...
I disagree. John said the economy is not complex. I think there's a lot of facets that go into the economy. Someone said, look at this walking corpse. I'm assuming this is a MAGA supporter. Homie, your dude literally doesn't know the difference between Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley. Your dude was talking about a cognitive test that he aced, and he didn't know the name of the person that gave him the test while he was talking about it. I don't think you can call President Biden a walking
get
corpse.
Mad at my
but
dad.
watch this.
The greatest swipe she'd take at him, he said when this particular guy they started a business, they were doing well, my dad was out selling, came back, turned out the guy had big gambling debts, and he lost everything. That's how everything got lost.
What was he selling?
He had a furniture company.
Okay.
And so anyway, what happened was when the police came to him and said, you can bring charges, he said, I can't do that. I'm godfather to his daughter.
Wow.
So every time my mother would get frightened, my dad wouldn't strike back at someone. He said, I know, you're godfather to his daughter. That was.
So you feel like you were emotionally fed by your father. In other words, he was a man, he was relatable, you could go to him with a problem. Well,
it's interesting. My dad was old-fashioned in the sense that my dad wasn't the guy. I don't ever remember I knew he adored me, but I never heard my dad wasn't.
This MAGA troll responded, getting a name wrong isn't dementia. It's not just, Donald Trump doesn't just get a name wrong. It's a repeated pattern of him not knowing specific information that he should know, like the names of politicians that he knows, like Nancy Pelosi or Nikki Haley, or mixing up the names of Biden and Obama. But I'm not claiming that Donald Trump has dementia. I don't think either of the candidates have dementia. I'm just saying it's unfair to say that Joe Biden is too old while conveniently forgetting that Donald Trump genuinely makes a lot of the same mistakes that Joe Biden does, but people don't clip that up in 10-second clips like they do with President Biden. I mean, President Biden, every time I go on Twitter, there is a 5-second clip of him just like standing there, and they try to turn it into this big ordeal, whereas Donald Trump could literally take a shit on a desk and nobody would clip it up. Nobody would care on the right. So you're going to come into the stream and be like, oh, he's a walking corpse, while conveniently not paying attention to anything Donald Trump has done over the past few years. It's just wild. But I want to do live debates too. So if you guys want to ever live debate, if you're ever a MAGA person and you want to jump in, we can find out a way to do that.
I love you. Because it was a generational thing. Men didn't say that then. But my dad would put his arm around me. My dad would come to the games, But for example, I remember starting off playing Catholic League football, CAA football.
By the way, I don't think a lot of people know that you were a star receiver in high school. You were the first string guy. You were the guy who caught the ball.
Runner-up in state, scoring,
Wow.
But I was a runt. Anyway, well, my dad... I remember getting knocked out when I was in 4th grade playing.
Concussion?
Well, I guess it was, but we didn't. It was just knocked out.
Right.
And my dad walked out in the field and said, Joey, get up. Just get up, man. You got to get up. Get up. If I could explain my dad, it's just never give up. Just get up. Just get up. My dad was always positive. My mother was one of those who was... she'd say, Joey, as long as you're... It's an actual quote she'd use more than once. As long as you're alive, Joe, you have an obligation to strive. You're not.
Yeah, and how the hell do you explain Donald Trump going on a 1-minute rant about sharks and batteries, like dis equal said, or yeah, dis equal one said? Like, you could take these 5-second clips of President Biden and act like that's proof of dementia, or you can watch an entire Donald Trump speech and watch him ramble about sharks and his MIT professor uncle. And like, the idea that these two are on the same level, I don't think either of them have dementia, but the idea that Donald Trump isn't also slowing down is just so wrong. Like, it's just wild to me.
Dead till you've seen the face of God, Joey. Get up. Get up.
What I like about your mother is, and tell me if this story is true, that it's famous now that you were a stutterer as
Yes.
a boy. You suffered from a horrible stutter, and there was a nun who decided to really goof on you and screw with you, and your mother marched down there and said to that nun, "I'm going to rip the habit off your head if you sit there and make fun of my son." Wow. Is it true?
Well, it is true. We, probably the best thing that ever happened to me, I'm not joking, was I stuttered. And because I learned, we have a rule in our family, and my mom's family as well, my dad, that you can never make, no matter what a jerk someone else is, you can never say anything about them that's true. If they're fat and ugly, you couldn't say you're fat, you could say you're stupid in a fight. If they were, whatever it was. And my mom was one of these people who...
That's good advice, though. That's really good advice.
You know, she said, when I stutter, I used to talk a little like that.
It was that bad.
It was that bad.
Oh, God.
But only, I'm not with my friends. With my friends, I occasionally stutter. But when I had to read in school, when I had to do things like that. And a particular nun, and the nuns were great. I had them for 8 years. But this one nun I was reading, you read in alphabetical order. And I knew my part was coming up, and so when one thing led to another, and I used to memorize the lines I was going to have to read because it's easier than look at the paper.
Yeah.
And I said, and Sir Walter Raleigh was a gentle man, and the nun said, "What's that word, Master Biden?" I said, "Gentleman." She said, "Mr. Biden."
Oh.
And I got up and walked out of class.
Hell yeah.
Really?
You
Walk
don't
out.
do that.
Wow.
And I went home, and my mother said, she was tapping her fingers on the kitchen table. She get in the car with my younger brother, drives me back. I remember walking in. There was a little anteroom to the nun's office, and she had me sit down and hold my brother. Anyway, I could hear the door was cracked, and said, "What happened, sister?" To the mother superior, she said, "Well, it doesn't matter. He just was so rude. He walked out of class. He can't do that." The next thing I know, he said, "Can you bring the sister?" I'm not going to mention her name. "Can you bring sister down?" Brought her down. I could see there was a crack in the door. And I could see the profile of my mom, who was 5'1", about 102 pounds or something. And and she said, "What happened?" He said, and the nun said what happened. She said, Did you say Mr. Biden?"
Sorry, this is a really good story, but a few comments. Someone said, "Are you still developing your interview technique? Have you watched Louis Theroux?" I actually have watched some Louis Theroux, and I think that's he's really good at what he does. Or John Ronson. I haven't heard of John Ronson, but I'm definitely still developing my interview technique. It's sort of an iterative thing. Every time I go to a rally, I try to do something new. We try to work on it a little bit more. Someone said, "This is a kind man." This is an incredibly, incredibly kind person. I mean, Joe Biden is just like the epitome. He's super kind and super compassionate. Biden is a good man and very respectful. Someone said, the MAGA supporter that was trolling me said, "Well, thanks for not blocking me. Maybe you eventually will. We'll see." I won't block you for being a MAGA supporter. Just don't be saying like crazy stuff in my chat. But if you want to debate about stuff, feel free to debate in my chat whenever you want. We can even pull you in on the live stream. Not this one. This is my first ever live stream. But eventually, I'm going to be pulling MAGA supporters in and trying to talk to them, like the people in this chat. I won't block you for being a MAGA supporter in chat. Someone asked, "Is this live?" I'm live right now, but the Howard Stern interview was from a month ago. I'm just going over it because a lot of people haven't seen it. But President Biden just told a story about how basically his mom used to tell him, "Don't make fun of stuff that people can't control," which I think is really, really good advice. I think that's what I'm going to tell my kids word for word, like what President Biden just said. You can't make fun of somebody based off of something they can't control. And then he told a story about how one of his teachers made fun of his stutter by saying Mr. Biden, and then his mom went and confronted that teacher, confronted that person right after. Wild story. We get a ton of really cool snippets of his life like this. It gets better and better. I'm so sorry that it's taken so long to go through the interview.
And she said, what happened? He said, and the nun said what happened. He said, did you say Mr. Biden? He said, well, I was just making a point, Mrs. Biden. He said, if you ever speak to my son like that, I'm going to come back and rip that damn bonnet off your head. Do you understand me?
Wow.
Do you understand? She gets up and says, Joey, let's go. No more screwing around.
Well, the fact that you had the balls to walk out of a classroom, it says something about you, too. Like, you know what? You set some boundaries. Hey, you're going to sit there and goof on me. I'm out of here.
True.
I don't know that I would have had the, I don't know that I would have been able to do something like that, honestly.
Well, I don't know about that, but it just
He's so
it
humble.
taught me a lot. And like I said, no one in my family, we were never, no matter what a jerk somebody was, you could never say something about them was true that they couldn't control.
Yeah, your family is pretty, again, this goes to my point about, the president is the father of our country. That's something we all say. And I think your family is so extraordinary because of the way they've conducted themselves and how they are with you that I feel you have a lot to give to the presidency. These are my feelings. Because, I'm thinking about this. It's a horrible point in your life, but again, we're talking about loss. When you were in college, you met your first wife, right? Fabulous woman. She was wasn't she the prom queen or the
Yeah, she was
homecoming queen?
Syracuse, yeah.
You met this beautiful woman.
Did.
I mean, and you asked her out, and she agrees to go out with you. And it was by all accounts a fabulous marriage and a fabulous kind of life. You were a new, what were you you would just run for Senate?
Someone said, will you ever try to interview the younger generation? And do you have any indication on which direction they're leaning? Yes, I have a lot of MAGA young interviews that I can go over with you guys live. I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot of live streams. So I think a live stream where I watch my own debates would be a lot of fun. And I can watch these younger people that I'm debating with. I can explain what it was like in that moment, like what was behind the camera. Sometimes when I'm debating, you guys don't see this, but sometimes like a crowd will sort of form in certain areas where like you can't see it on camera. Polly Sims said, I just wish there was a better option, even better than Biden. And the only problem I see with that is every time I ask somebody who the better option would be, they're never able to bring up another name. Like there's no better option. There's younger people that are just like the same, like Pete Buttigieg, but Pete Buttigieg would not have even nearly the electoral chances that Biden has. The reason why we want Biden to run for a second term is because number one, the incumbent advantage that has been the precedent for all of American history, and other than like a few cases where incumbents lost, like Donald Trump, but he has the incumbency advantage. Number two, he's incredibly strong electorally. He's been doubted repeatedly in the primaries. In the general election, people said that he would not make it, but he washed everyone in the primaries. He washed everybody in the general election. Number three, he's really popular with certain demographics that other people wouldn't be. So President Biden was obviously the vice president to Barack Obama. And because of that, he was super popular among black voters in states like Georgia. Like he would not have won Georgia if he didn't have so many minority voters, if they didn't have his back. And they do. And a lot of it is because of his President Obama tie. And someone like Pete Buttigieg would never have that. And another reason is because President Biden's experience in Washington. He's super old, but he uses that as a benefit. He's so experienced that he knows how to cross these bridges. He knows how to pass bipartisan deals because he knows how politics works. Politics is based off of compromise. It's not based off of coming up with nicknames and shooting down bills that would benefit the people, like the border bill that Trump shot down. So all of these reasons, President Biden is incredibly, incredibly good at politics. He has an electoral advantage. He's an incumbent advantage. He's popular among certain demographics. He's incredibly smart. I get that he's not your first choice, but there's not a better choice. I'm sorry, but like Pete Buttigieg is like cool, but like, I don't know, like who would be your guys' better choice than Biden? I just struggle to think of anyone.
Well, you were on the county council.
I hadn't even done that yet.
Yeah.
I was just out of law school.
By the way, before we get to your first wife, when you get out of law school, you get...
And imagine if Biden dropped out. If Biden dropped out of the presidency, like the Democratic Party would look so incompetent, and like it's good to have a cohesive coalition together heading into this election. Do we want to go through a primary process where all the Democrats are like attacking each other? There's just so many reasons why Biden running is good. All these are great names. I love Jeffries 2028. I love Waltz. I love Raskin. All of these are great people, but like President Biden still has all of these things that he spent decades building that these people don't have. Jon Stewart, maybe. I'm not really a fan of like celebrities running for I like Jon Stewart, of course, but after the whole Trump era, I kind of like people who have like political experience. I kind of like the swamp coming in. Adam, good on you for doing live chats. I've been waiting patiently for you to do this and we'll be watching Biden's Life Starting Spirit. I will be doing a lot of live chats heading into this election, and they will get more and more fun. Right now, I'm just kind of testing everything out. I'm learning how to work all the live stuff, but eventually I'm so excited to pull some Trump supporters in off of chat, debate people. We've had an idea of debating people's MAGA family members. I'm going to plant this idea now. If you guys have any Trump supporter family members who are open to debate, they're cool people to talk to, we can do a segment where we pull them on stream. If it's just like your sweet old grandma who doesn't debate, I don't want to debate with your grandma who like it's just going to be really nice. Someone who like actually wants to get in the weeds with me. If your grandma's a debater, I'll debate her.
Council.
I hadn't even done that yet.
Yeah.
I was just out of law school.
By the way, before we get to your first wife, when you get out of law school, you get some kind of job working for the local Republicans. They were.
Well, when I got a job with one of the best, the most prestigious plaintiffs firms in the state, and but Dr. King was killed that year, and we were the only city in America occupied by the National Guard for 10 months with drawn bayonets.
Katie Porter is awesome. I love Katie Porter. And yeah, Winthrop, hit me up with your brother-in-law. Get your brother-in-law in here. Not today, but we'll do that.
Every corner. And so I quit and became a public defender.
That's what I want to ask you.
Yeah, we're live, Jesse Pinkman. What is up, homie? Don't tread on me, as Walter White would say.
Occupied by the National Guard for 10 months with drawn bayonets every corner. And so I quit and became a public defender.
That's what I want to ask you about. So you're working at some law firm, and you realize you're representing big corporations and stuff, guys who, probably, you don't identify with. You quit, you go across the street and become a public defender. And you're defending poor families who can't afford a good lawyer. That's pretty noble.
Well, I didn't think it was being noble. I thought of it as being the way to fight back against what was happening to a lot of, particularly, we have the 8th largest black population as a percent of population in the country. And we were.
Alec is making some great points. Alec said this dude is recalling things like 60 years ago, but his memory's strong. The whole interview, he's recalling things from a while ago. It gets better and better. Thank you guys. Everybody who's joined the live stream, I appreciate you guys so much. My first live, I'm seeing a lot of people saying they love this live stream. And yeah, thank you so much. I want to be doing this more often after I do my daily videos. Evolution Wendy, am I talking too much? No, you're not talking too much, Evolution Wendy. Adam, you should tweet out the live. I'm a professional at these things. I should be, you know what, I'm going to tweet this out right now.
We have the 8th largest black population as a percent of population in the country. And we were segregated by law for a long time. We were one of those slave states, literally, that fought on the side of the North. And there was a big debate as to whether or not the Democratic Party was part of the mainstream Northeastern Democratic Party or more of a Southern Democratic Party. So I became a public defender and went to work with a group of senior guys who were much my senior, called the New Democratic Coalition, to try to reform the Democratic Party. That's how I got engaged in that.
Was there some part of you that said, geez, I went to law school, I should be making a lot of money? When you decide to become a public defender, it's a noble thing.
Well, no, I never thought of it that way. For some reason, I never thought that being a lawyer I was going to make a lot of money. I thought being a lawyer I could do some good things, representing people, not as a public defender, but as a lawyer when they're injured, or as a lawyer that they. So it wasn't so much that. I can't say I went in thinking I was going to make a lot of money. And switching to the public defender side, granted, I made a little less money, but it wasn't so much that. It was I really felt strongly about having to change the environment in the state, and it was a way to get engaged in changing the political environment.
Did you, at that point in your life, do you go to court and you stand up and argue in front of a judge?
Yeah.
No kidding. What were some of the cases like? I mean, these are people who are accused of horrendous crimes.
Polly Sim said, I do have a question for you guys. It is, if I don't vote for either candidate, what would be the ramifications of that? First of all, thank you for asking questions in chat. Really open conversation. We'll just chill, have a but also, in my opinion, I feel like not voting for Trump is almost kind of just like not voting for Biden is almost like giving Trump a vote, because the goal is for Donald Trump to be beat by so many votes that he's obviously going to cry that it was rigged, but that is a solid win from President Biden. Donald Trump is solidly defeated. The MAGA movement has shown that they are not wanted in America. So not voting at all is effectively like ceding ground to MAGA. You are ceding ground to MAGA right there when you could be giving them the message. You could be using your vote. Also, like, voting is one of your fundamental rights as an American. So many people, it's going to sound cliche, but so many people died for you to be able to vote. So many things have had to happen for you to be able to voice your voice in this democracy. So not voting is almost just wild. Yeah, it does depend on the state. Like, if you're in like California, I guess you don't have to vote. But also, if you're in California, you should vote, because exactly like this person said, Jesse, vote too big to rig. Absolutely, exactly. Jamie said, introducing me to Adam is one of the best things David Pakman did for me. That means you are an absolute OG follower. I haven't been on David Pakman's channel in almost a year, so that is awesome. Yeah, feel free to comment anything you guys want, because we can chat. I won't see all the comments, just comment a few times. I can respond to anything you guys want.
Heinous crimes?
Well, some were a couple. I mean, I've had a couple murder cases, those things, but a lot of them were cases where they were accused of things that weren't, I didn't think rose to the level of being a crime that they intentionally committed.
Right.
And so, but it was all over the board. You didn't get to choose what case you got. I mean, people came in and they had everything from murder to burglary to
what's up, Kay?
Assault, those kinds of things.
What a pressure, right? Somebody's life is in your hands. You talk about the presidency being a pressure, or being the senator or vice.
That's true. That part, I think every defense attorney feels that way. If you're on that side of the aisle, it's you just and a number of these people.
Please girl, you are an absolute day one. I see you in my comments all the time, so I already know, but
some were guilty, it turns out.
Right.
But some were totally innocent, and those are the cases you just wonder, how in God's name do I tell the husband, the wife, the son, the daughter that they've been found guilty?
Did you hate law school? Was law a passion of yours, or
no? It wasn't. Look, I was a jerk in law school. What happened was I got an opportunity to go to some more prestigious law schools, but didn't have the money to get there. So I was.
You were at Syracuse.
I was at Syracuse. It's a good law school,
right.
But I thought I was going to go to either Cornell or anyway.
But why were you a jerk in law school?
Well, I didn't take it seriously enough. For example, I didn't buy my textbooks until middle of the first semester.
That's a good move.
There's this thing. I shouldn't say this, but it was embarrassing. But there was a guy named Bob.
Thank you, Roview. Great brag. Roview said, I'm not trying to brag, but I've been here since your first video. Someone said, I think I'm an OG listener. I mean, all of you guys are OG. I'm still a year into my career. I made my first video about a year ago, so I'm still pretty new to this. But like, if you were here during my first few MAGA rally videos when I had like 5,000 subscribers.
Bob Osgood, who graduated number
Thank you,
one
Sean,
in our class and became a senior partner in one of the major law firms in New York. And you get called on. We had a very tough professor, a good professor, great professor, taught torts. And you get called on in class, you stand up and recite what the case is about. And so I hadn't read the case. And so he called on me and I stood up and I went through this whole thing. And as if I had read the case, just, And Bob Osgood stands up and starts to clap the whole and the professor looked at me and said, Mr. Biden, that's incredible. It had nothing to do with the case, but if you ever learn to read a case, you're going to be okay.
Let me play that one more time. This story is hilarious. This was me in high school, for like college too. I'm still looking, but in high school, I was the worst student, and hearing that President Biden was a terrible student makes me feel better. Thank you so much, Crystal Waters. She said, thank you, Adam, for helping this old lady stay sane. You're doing a great job, young man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, more than you know. But listen to this President Biden story. It's super funny.
I'd read the case, just, and Bob Osgood stands up and starts to clap the whole you stand up and recite what the case is about. And you get called on in class, you stand up and recite what the case is about. And so I hadn't read the case. And so he called on me and I stood up and I went through this whole thing. And as if I had read the case, just, you know. And Bob Osgood stands up and starts to clap. The whole, and the professor looked at me and said, Mr. Biden, that's incredible. It had nothing to do with the case, but if you ever learn to read a case, you're going to be okay.
Wow. What a distinguished law school event.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed.
So when
That is a really, really funny story. You guys are saying stuff in chat about how, well, somebody said they don't want to listen to President. Let me look up Donald Trump on Jake Paul. I'm not going to watch this. I'm literally just going to like click on a random part and show you how
At
unhinged.
iBuyDirect, our virtual try-on lets you find the
At the free Master Mentors.
Let's go back to Biden.
when you're in law school, this is when you went to the Bahamas on spring break and met
Yes.
your first wife?
Yeah, well, yeah. And actually, when I wasn't in law school, I was in college. And I was a junior in college. I got my $85 tax return. And with a bunch of guys, we got in a car and we went down to Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, Fort Lauderdale. Okay.
And I'm the only Irishman you ever met that's never had a drink in his life. And all anybody did was they were just drinking and drunk. And so I found out you could go to Nassau for $20 round trip. And I'd never been in a commercial airline.
Yeah.
So I convinced two of my buddies to go on a commercial airline.
No, I'm not going to play Trump, but just watch what happens when I go from this person to this person. It is a world of difference.
Wouldn't have happened, and October 7th would have never happened.
That's all we need to see. October 7th would never have happened. Like, what is this guy talking about? Genuinely, he's in another... Like, I just clicked a random part of the interview, and Donald Trump was talking about how Ukraine would have never gotten invaded, and October 7th would have never happened.
To
Wild.
go to Nassau.
Wild stuff.
And by the way, remember those days too? It was like, I remember the first time I went on, you got dressed up to go on an airplane.
Yeah,
it was
that's
like a
right.
big deal.
That's
Yeah, right.
And to make a long story short, we thought there'd be less just dancing and drinking. And not that these guys opposed it, but there'd be college girls there. And it turns out we go to the beach and they're all locals and there's nobody there. All the hotels had at the time, the British Colonial Hotel had a chain link fence that ran down the length of the property out into the ocean.
Huh.
And so what we did, there was nobody there, so we grabbed towels off the chain link fence that had British Colonial on it, three of us, and we walked in, and we just walked right out to the pool like we were there.
Yeah.
And there was this young woman who was particularly attractive, I thought. I said, I'm going to go talk to her. And this other guy, Mike, said, no, I'm going. And the third guy flipped a coin, I won.
Wow.
And then we went and sat down, and I'm talking to
Would
her.
you have honored that if when you flipped the coin? If the other guy,
Yeah, people in chat. October 7th was Hamas's attack on Israel. He was talking about
Yeah,
it.
won.
no,
Yeah.
that was the deal.
That was the deal.
That was the deal.
Yeah, and you guys in the chat are killing it right now. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. Someone said this live chat is so powerful. I mean, you could be talking about the live stream, but I'm thinking this chat, what you guys are saying right now, this chat is incredible. Like everything that you guys are saying is awesome. I love you guys.
And so anyway, to make a long story short, I'm sitting talking. I said, hi, my name's Joe Biden. I'm from Delaware. She said, my name's Nelia Hunter. I'm from Syracuse. And I started talking to her, and she's lying on the chaise lounge. I'm at the foot. And I'm looking out at the ocean because the sun was coming toward the shore, toward the ocean. And I see this guy, talking to her, and I'm watching this yacht pull up. The guy gets out with the hat and the white pants, and he gets in a dinghy and he rows ashore. And I'm just curious watching him. And he walks right up to Nelia, where I'm sitting by the pool. He said, Nelia, we on for dinner tonight? She said, oh, I'm sorry, John. She said, Joe and I are going to dinner. I apologize. He huffed off. She said, I'm so embarrassed. I just didn't want to do it. I said, why don't we go to dinner? I had $22 left, I think it was. So we go to this place to dinner, and you could buy McDonald's hamburgers for 19 cents in those days. So at this nice restaurant, I order a hamburger, and her family had money,
Right.
but she ordered the same thing. She was very gracious. And the bill comes, and I was $20 short, and I could feel a tap under the table on my knee. And I put my hand down, she put $40 in my hand.
Oh my God.
And she said, I'm so embarrassed. She said, oh, it happens to my dad all the time. It never does.
Oh, you had to fall in love right in that moment.
By the way, I did. And we're walking her back. I never kissed her, never went in her room, never went to bed with her. And I'm like a horse's tail. There's, how there are those chains that separate parking lots from
Yeah.
the walkways.
Yeah.
I go to jump over, I trip, fall flat in my ass. And she said, oh, it's okay, it's I. And I said, I got up, and it was a stupid thing to say. I said, I think I'm going to marry you. And she looked at me, my words,
player.
Biden. She said, I think maybe. I quit the football team and started to commute every single weekend up to Syracuse, New York.
A lovebird. He is a lovebird.
For the next so many years.
You played football for Syracuse too after high school?
No. This isn't at Delaware.
Oh, okay, Delaware. Yeah.
A few chats to read really quickly. Bike Mess said, Amock, thanks for highlighting Biden. More of this. Thank you so much for the donation. Weirdly enough, people in high school, that was my nickname, Amock. A, and then my last name, Mock. People used to call me that, so it's weird that you know that. AC said, so happy you're doing a live. Please do more. Love your content. Thank you so much. Robert said, Adam, love your show. Watch all your clips and enjoy them. Love these live events as well. Be looking forward to them. Thank you so much. I'll be doing a lot of live events, and they will be fun. I'm a new sub, and you rock. Thank you, Mona. Adam for press secretary. Evolution Wendy. That would be sick. Could you imagine me up there with like Biden, or not with Biden, sorry, defending Biden in front of all those journalists every day? That'd be wild. There was there was a Gen Z spokesperson spot up for a while for Biden, the Biden administration. It was like they needed a Gen Zer to go out there and do interviews on behalf of Biden. And I was thinking about applying because like your resume you needed a resume of videos of you in intense situations. It's like, who else has a resume better of them in intense situations, right?
I had been a freshman. My grades were terrible. My mother made me quit. My grades came back up. I went back out my junior year in spring practice, and I was designated, they thought I might be the safety and I'd make the team. But I quit. I didn't go back because I just fell ass over tin cups in love with her.
Wow. Unbelievable. Like that.
It's a true story.
It's a crazy story, you know? And I mean, the fact that like a lot of guys would have said, you know what, I think you're going to be my wife. And like, she might have head for the hills. You know what I mean? Like said, this guy's crazy. He's like, he's in love already. And he thinks you're going to.
No man deserves one great love, let alone two. I mean, I really did. I mean, it was true. It's like when I met Jill, when I lost my family, I got put in that 10 most eligible bachelors list.
Because you were United States Senator, you were a catch.
And so,
Wait, is that true?
Lost my family. I got put in that 10 most eligible bachelors list.
Because you were United States Senator, you were a catch.
And so, and a lot of lovely women, but women would send very salacious pictures, and I'd just give them to the Secret Service. I thought somebody would think I was. And I just gave up, and I got a call from my brother. He said, I know a girl here at Delaware.
So he got put on a list of top 10 most eligible bachelors because he was known as like a senator who was really hot to women. And then he would always he called them salacious pictures. Women would always send him pictures, and he would just give them to the Secret Service. That's actually wild to me. President Biden was apparently incredibly good looking when he was younger. Let's see. I mean, I've known that he's really good looking, but I haven't heard this story about top 10 most eligible bachelors. I mean, yeah, President Biden. I've seen this picture. This is the picture that everybody's seen this picture right here. Clearly an attractive dude. I don't know what's going on in this picture, but still a good looking dude. This was probably about the time he, man, his hair used to be wild. His hair used to be crazy. Wait, that's he looks so different. What the hell? You could tell this is Biden. That's like very clearly Biden, but this almost doesn't look like him in my opinion. I could see it, but.
Jill's 9 years younger than I am. She said, and you'll love her. She doesn't like politics.
Well, that's my point about your family. And this is what I love about your family. Your brother Frank is your youngest brother. He's the one who introduces you to your second wife.
Nah, the sad thing is, Mark Elcock said, I bet she remembers those $40. He was talking about his first wife, I'm pretty sure. I believe he was talking about his first wife, yeah, that passed away in a car accident. It's incredibly sad.
Joel?
Incredibly sad.
When you lost your wife, now, listen, what did you date for 2 years after you met in the Bahamas, and then you got married, right?
Right.
It was a great romance, and you had 3 children. You had a daughter and 2 sons.
Yeah, he's still a good-looking dude, William. Like, I actually think Joe Biden is pretty, like, he's a good-looking, for an 80-year-old dude, I think he's a good-looking guy. Like,
you had a young family.
He's got this
just
aura.
Been elected to the United States Senate, and the worst thing ever happened.
Hunter S. Thompson met Biden, Space Karen? I didn't know that.
In your life.
They meet.
It's a horrible tragedy. Your wife was in a car accident, some truck hit her, and you lost your 13-month-old daughter. And I get the chills when I say it because I can't imagine this kind of loss. You lose your 13-month-old daughter, you lose your wife, and your 2 boys end up in the hospital.
Yes.
I can't even imagine that kind of loss. Here's the love of your life. You have this beautiful romance, love at first sight, I would say. I don't know how you recover from something like that. I just don't know.
Mark Kaplan, what is up? This is my friend from Ukraine. If you guys ever see me on the Ukrainian show, Ukrainian Toronto television, what is up, Mark? Sorry, I'm going to go back a second. Joe Biden just told a really powerful story.
I can't even imagine that kind of loss. Here's the love of your life. You have this beautiful romance, love at first sight, I would say. I don't know how you recover from something like that. I just don't know.
Family. Look, I spend a lot of time because, anyway, when you've been through something tough and everybody had in their life, and people know it and you survive it, people come to you and ask basically how. They want to reassure. And so one of the things I had my mother and my father. My best friend in the world is my sister, my younger sister, my brother Jimmy, Frankie, the whole family. And everybody just, for example, what I would do, I didn't want to stay in the U.S. Senate. And I let everybody know I was going to we had a Democratic governor, and he'd appointed a successor, another Democrat. And Senator Mansfield, Iron Mike from Montana, a man more integrity in his little finger than most people have in their whole body, and Teddy Kennedy and a guy named Fritz Hollings from South Carolina and Tom Eagleton and a few others, they all came to me and said, look, just stay 6 months, help us organize. Like a damn fool, I thought that. I said, okay, but I'm not going to stay. And I started commuting back and forth in a train to Delaware, 300 miles round trip a day. And
the reason you were commuting is you wanted to be near your two boys because they'd lost their mother, they lost their sister. You needed to be involved, so you would get on the Amtrak. They called you Amtrak Joe, right?
Yeah.
And you would commute to D.C. and do your job.
Right, and go home. But the real reason, there was no way. And that's why I'm so empathetic to people who need child care. I could not afford child care even if I did move to Delaware from Delaware. I was listed for 36 years as the poorest man in the United States Congress.
Right.
I never thought I was poor. I was getting a Senate salary, which was more than I'd ever made.
Biden was the poorest U.S. senator for 36 years, he just said. He was listed as the poorest senator, which it goes to show how Biden's policies have been shaped by his experiences versus how Trump's policies have been shaped by his lack of experience, let's call them. Biden was talking about how he struggled financially for a while, and you can tell in his policies, they directly relate back to struggles that he's had in his own life, things that he's seen, problems that he's identified with the system, whereas Donald Trump really hasn't struggled at all. So all of his policy prescriptions, he doesn't really have policy prescriptions. It's all just what can benefit me. You would never see Donald Trump caring about some middle, lower class person because he doesn't have that same lived experience. He acts like he cares.
Yeah. But the end result was that my family was home. So, for example, when the boys were really little, I'd go from my house, which is not far from where my parents lived. I'd be driven by my buddy Tommy Lewis, who worked for me. He'd drive me in, we'd drop at my mom, like the kids at my mom's, and then I'd go on to the train station. So I had a whole network to take care of my family.
What's up,
But
Noah?
that's my point. What a family. Valerie, your sister, moves in basically to help you. Think about it. This wasn't her burden, but she moved in.
She and her husband gave up their place. When I came home the boys were hospitalized. When I came home from the hospital, they had moved in.
I mean, what a gift. And your brother Jimmy moves into the garage.
Exactly right. He made it a little apartment. Look, we have an expression in our family, for real. If you have to ask, it's too late. If you have to ask, it's too late.
But most families aren't like this. They are not. Valerie put her whole life on hold in order to help you raise your boys. And Jimmy moves into a garage and puts his life on hold because they love you. That is the most loving. If I wrote a movie, you would say, that's a little over the top.
Well, it's who we are. I mean, it's how we were raised.
Nah, the Biden family, like every time he says the Biden family has this motto, or we say this in the Biden family, it's always like the most powerful thing I've ever heard. But you guys have been pointing this out, but Howard Stern has grown a lot over the years. Like he genuinely used to be, well, like you guys know what Howard Stern used to do on his shows. He used to have like topless girls come in all the time. He used to have like naked midgets, just like whack stuff. And now he has the president of the United States. What a journey for this guy.
the amount of gratitude. And here's another thing I like about you. So you become Amtrak Joe. You just, by the way, you were one of the youngest senators. You couldn't even get sworn in. Your wife never got to see you sworn in because you were
That's correct.
technically 28 years old, and you have to be
29, you have to be 30.
You have to be 30. You were 29. So she never got to see you get sworn in. She saw you win the seat. You were an unlikely winner. It was mostly Republican district.
So his wife and his kid passed away in between him winning his election and him being seated. I didn't know that, but I didn't know that the timing lined up where he won his race, but he couldn't actually be seated because that's crazy to me.
Well, Freudian slip. Nixon only won by 60% in my state.
You were an unlikely winner. It was mostly
He's funny too.
Republican
He's so
district.
funny.
Well, Freudian slip. Nixon only won by 60% in my state
Right.
that year, and I won by 3,100 votes.
Well, God knows how you did that. But that's what I mean about your family. Your old man was out there knocking on doors for you. They thought he was running for Senate, not you, because you were a kid. It's pretty amazing family. And I'm
proud of it.
I submit for your approval that when you have a loving family like that, you got a lot to give because you get so much from them.
I agree.
Most people who aren't generous are because they haven't been given anything.
Well, the other thing is,
it's
an expectation in the family. Like I said before, probably the greatest gift I ever got was being a stutterer. Because you know what it's like to be
Wendy Germain said, I just switched to the Howard Stern YouTube channel to watch the Biden interview. Thanks for calling it out. You're welcome.
humiliated. You know what it's like. I don't want to exaggerate it. It's not like I had a cleft palate or I had a...
Right.
Someone, Cameron said, hey, Adam, quick question. I have a hard time retaining info and details when engaging in debates. How do you prepare for debates and help yourself retain information that you read? So with debates, a lot of it is really iterative, where like you have one debate, you learn the responses that you have to prep for, and then you have new iterations of what you can prepare for. So a lot of it is like just experience, but also you can watch other MAGA debates. There's a lot of other people on YouTube that do debates. You could find them, you can seek them out, and you can learn a lot about how to engage with the people. It's a lot of the same talking points over and over. So I look at it as like a dialogue tree. There's like branches with certain directions you could go with the dialogue. MAGA supporters have like 2 different branches of dialogue they can go down. It's either like everything is rigged against me, every institution is rigged, all the courts are corrupt, the elections are rigged, or it's just like, that's basically it. Like the deep state is trying out to get Trump. Trump is going to save all of us. And I'd say as far as retaining information goes, just have notes. Just type notes. You can write down notes about like however many... Like, for example, I have a document somewhere that literally just describes a lot of the election fraud cases. Let me see if I can find... Like, it'll literally just go into the different election fraud cases, how to combat them in a debate. Let me see if I can find some of my, like, debate notes, basically. Some of them are scattered around. But, like, yeah, I have different... Like, when I went to Georgia, I had an entire document just based off of Georgia, stuff that I could learn about Georgia and their election systems and like all the stuff that happened. So just knowing what you need to know, write it all down, reread it, use it in debates over and over, have these debates over and over, and yeah, it'll get easier.
The greatest gift I ever got was being a stutterer. Because you know what it's like to be humiliated. You know what it's like. I don't want to exaggerate.
Okay, I'm not going to pause it down much more. But someone said, I watched this the day it came out. And I thought this would be talked about forever, then crickets. I'm so glad you're doing this. But that's the exact thing. I watched this when it came out too, and I was like, this is an amazing, amazing interview, amazing chat. President Biden has so much personality. He's a great person, and nobody I talked to have seen this. I talked to all my family members, my liberal, none of them have seen this.
It's not like I had a cleft palate or I had a
Right.
club foot but it's something people make fun of. And you realize how humiliating it is. So it taught me to understand what other people are going through.
How'd you get rid of the stutter? Was it that you...
I practiced. I'd stand in front of the mirror and just try to make sure that I blah, 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 blah.
Lisa Purdy, Adam, you made my day with live chat and Howard Stern interview. Such a change from someone said Dark Brandon. Check out. I'll stop pausing it. FX noise. Chill out. I have my Dark Brandon shirt on. Vote for Dark Brandon. It's from MeidasTouch.com. Check that out.
I just worked, but it wasn't... My mother used to say, Joey, come here. Look at me. Look at me. You're smart.
If you can't understand what Biden is saying, you need to get your Sky Does Minecraft. You need to get your hearing checked. You need to turn up your speakers. Biden is speaking completely clearly. Sky Does Minecraft was a great YouTuber, so I don't know why you're using this.
My mother used to say, Joey, come here. Look at me. Look at me. You're smart. You're handsome. You're a good boy. Just don't let this define you. Don't let it define you. And it just, I don't want to exaggerate how debilitating it was, but it was easy to make fun of, because when I tried to speak in public, when I tried to reading and talking on the telephone are two hard things for stutterers. And by the way, I've got a group now, I don't know how many it's up to, I think 38 kids who are serious stutterers since I've been president, who I engage with, who are still getting it. There's a young man, I'm so proud of him. He actually did my nominating speech for the 2020 election.
How did you get involved with these kids? I mean,
I'd meet them. For example, the one young man I met, I don't want to mention his name, but I met it was out in the middle.
Oh yeah, if you want to see more MAGA debate tips, these live streams will get incredibly fun. I mean, I have plans for live streams to essentially watch through all of my MAGA footage, do some research on what these people are saying, come up with better and better replies. I can watch my Mike Lindell interview. I can watch so much cool stuff. Sorry, I missed this donation. Amock, thanks for highlighting Biden more of this. Thank you, Bike Mess. Thanks for the Midas shoutouts too. I also plan on doing research on January 6th or Project 2025. Like, wouldn't it be cool to do an entire stream where I just research Project 2025? We go through the documents, we take notes, we learn about it. Because I've read parts of Project 2025. It's incredibly long. It's super easy to paint it as this terrifying boogeyman, but wouldn't it be fun to actually go in and know exactly the wording they use, like the exact wording they plan to use to overthrow our liberal democracy? I think going through and reading through the January 6th report, Project 2025, all of this stuff would be great. And then could you imagine, while we're reading through Project 2025, some MAGA is in the chat defending it, so we bring them on stream and we're like, yo, let's talk about Project. Like, that's just good content right there.
West, and I was with his mom. I was doing a political event as vice president, and I could see him, and you can tell the stutter when they talk, just the way they begin to move their lips. And I said to him, I said, "You got a minute?" I said, "I got to work on my speech. Can you come with me?" And the mother looked at me and said, "Here's something before I go out and speak, because I mark up my speeches." You ever see the movie The King's Speech?
Yes.
Well, the guy who wrote The King's Speech contacted me and sent me a copy of The King's Speech.
Great
He actually used to put slash marks. So stuttering is about getting a cadence, at least for me.
It's musical.
Exactly. By the way, you notice a lot of singers are stutterers.
That's right.
Not a lot, but I mean, great singers are stutterers.
Mel Tillis was like the guy. I mean, he had a horrible.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
But if you learn to just make a little bit of it, it sounds choppy, but I went to the movie with my wife I went to the movie. And so I practiced a lot. I would used to stand in front of the mirror and at night, and my siblings, we were three of us in one bedroom, but I'd stand in front of the mirror, and I know a lot of poetry, a lot of particular Irish poetry, because I'd practice it just so. I don't want to exaggerate it, but it was real, and
it's real trauma, because especially.
You guys are going to hate this, but let's see what Donald Trump is saying on this Logan Paul interview. Let's just see the difference.
And if you go to Nevada and you look at that little section of where they go to look at the aliens, where they think all the aliens are landing, that it's maybe the number one tourist attraction in the world.
What is he? I don't know. I don't know.
Look at the life you chose.
This
you
interview
have
was a
to
month
get
ago.
up and make speeches. You have to debate people. You have, you become a lawyer and you have to go argue in court on behalf of people. I mean, what could be more important than having a confident, fluent speech?
But by that time, I was over most of the stuttering. But like, for example, Trump makes fun of me.
Right.
He was the kind of guy in the neighborhood who wish he could have gotten in the neighborhood and beat head to head. But at any rate,
We pull up the Trump stream. He's just talking about aliens for some reason. Like, not even policy. It's like President Biden is talking about how he overcame his stutter and how he had this like beautiful experience going from point A to point B. And it's like, oh, let's see what President Trump's up to. And he's like, well, there could be aliens. I don't know.
Trump makes fun of me.
Right.
He was the kind of guy in the neighborhood who wish he could have gotten in the neighborhood and beat head to head.
Yeah, he is. Sorry, one more time.
But like, for example, Trump makes fun of me.
Right.
He was the kind of guy in the neighborhood who wish he could have gotten in the neighborhood and beat head to head. But at any rate,
And by the way, speaking of that, didn't your mother, the first fist fight you ever had, some bully in your neighborhood, and your mother says to you, listen, go back to this bully. I guess the guy really had it with you. And she said, go back and punch him in the face.
Well, to be precise, in Scranton, we lived in a place called Green Ridge, and down the bottom of the hill by the Lackawanna River is called the Plot.
Yeah.
And there was a family, I'll not mention the name, they were pretty tough. And I was 14 years old, I guess, and they'd come up on what they call Dimmick Avenue, and anyway, they were up in the backyard. I walked out the yard with two of my friends, and this particular guy came up to me and smacked me, and I hold my face, and I came back across the fence into the kitchen. My grandfather was there, and he says, "What's that?" I said, "He hit me." And I walked in the pantry, looked out on that avenue, that alley.
I'm speeding it up to 1.25 just so we can. If you guys have a problem with this, let me know. But
And my mother said, "Joey, go back out there." I said, "Mom, he'll beat me up." He said, "Joey, I have a quarter." That was a big. You go back out, but here's what you do, Joey. Wait till he'll come back to you. As soon as he walks up to you, don't do a single thing except you got to hit him right in the nose, Joe,
Right.
in the nose. I was scared to death. He said, "So go out there, Joey." So I went out scared to death, got up across the little bank there. He walked up to me, and I, with all the courage I had, I hit him right, and his nose started bleeding. He went, "Oh!" Took off.
Really?
She came, I'm serious.
It's a very cinematic life you've had. I mean, that's a scene.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
This, I know it sounds bizarre.
No, it
but
doesn't.
Everybody at home still kids me about it. At home, being in Scranton. Anyway, and I walked back. She said, "Here's a quarter, and I'll get you another quarter tomorrow."
When you became a football player, was that kid still going to school with you? Because I'm pretty
No,
sure.
he never went to school with me.
Oh,
he was just down. He was a local kid.
I wonder if that guy's still around. I mean, like he sees he become president of the United States. I wonder if it's like, do you ever do that? Do you ever like go on Facebook and look up people that you grew up with and go, hey, look what became of me? Like,
No, I don't do that. But I keep in contact with those people. I mean, the people, my friends. Like when I went back home to Scranton last week, Larry Orr, a guy that we grew up.
someone said, "Don't love the optics of speeding things up." Someone said, I'm not speeding it up because President Biden is talking slow. It's just because I have like Zoomer Gen Z brain, and I just listen to things faster."
Known for 55 years. I invited Larry to come with me. He's still around. And I'm getting so damn old, a lot of them are passed away these days.
I know, it's depressing.
And
But what about like a woman who rejected you in high school? Now you could just like say, hey, I'm the president of the United States. That to me is the biggest rush in the world.
Okay, fine. I'll put it back just because I don't want to miss anything.
No, I don't think of it that way, Howard.
You should come into my world. That's all I think about. It's all about that.
Well, anyway.
Yeah. But anyway.
The only reason I was not allowed to go out with some girls was because I was Catholic.
Yeah, that was, I guess, your first wife. The family didn't want you anything to do with you because you were Catholic, right?
Well, they liked my first wife was up in Skinny Atlas. They were in Auburn, New York. The family was really from near Syracuse.
Do any of you guys watch your interviews, or like not interviews? Do any of you guys watch YouTube videos on double speed, or like let me know what speed you guys watch YouTube videos on, or in particular my YouTube videos? I've always wondered, does anybody like speed up my YouTube videos to 1.5, or does anyone slow them down? I don't know. I've always wondered.
And the father was on.
I watch. This is a little secret about me. I watch everything on the internet at double speed because I'm like a Gen Z Zoomer brain person who needs to have everything going double speed. JL said, "I've got to go, so watch the rest of the stream later. Keep up the great work. Have a nice day, chat." Thank you so much, JL. And don't you worry, because we will have so many more streams. Like this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think I'm going to start streaming every other day until the election, at least, maybe after.
Incredible guy. But his older sister was very involved in the Presbyterian Church.
Wow.
And
can you believe that's a thing? Like, can you believe back then that was a big thing? Like, I don't even know the difference between Catholic and Presbyterian.
I watch live streams at 2 times speed too, but how are you doing that, Ender? How are you going double speed? Are you seeing in the future, like what I'm saying in 5 minutes if you're watching my stream at double speed? No, but I get what you're saying, yeah. Double speed always, 1.5 to 1.75, 1.5, yeah, 1.5 is the sweet spot right there. I watch some stuff on normal speed, like if they talk too fast, like, you'll love Ben Shapiro then. Yeah, I sometimes when I'm doing research before Trump rallies, I listen to Ben Shapiro just to hear what MAGA's like thinking. It's not because I'm impatient. I don't listen to things on double speed because I'm impatient. It's just because maybe that's it. I don't know. Am I impatient? I think it's not Adderall. It's not Adderall. You guys just have to learn how like Zoomer brains work. Zoomers have to watch things on double speed. But no, not yours because you talk fast, but many I watch. That's good. I like that I talk fast because sometimes I get bored when political content creators talk slow. 1.5 speed for you. That's cool.
I went up like the 5th trip. And
anybody in this chat, okay, so Sky Does Minecraft said Trump 2024. He's spamming it. I've seen other people say similar stuff, dropping those. Sky Does Minecraft, if you want to hop in and talk about Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, just say so in the chat because we can talk about it. Like, you don't have to leave troll comments.
Nearly looked at me and said, my dad told me I have to stop dating you because you're a Catholic. And I said, oh, man. She looked at me, she said, but I told him, don't make me choose, Daddy. Don't make me choose.
What a great woman.
And but her dad actually showed up, which was really I forever indebted to him. Showed up at at the Catholic Church in Skinny Atlas, and walked her up the aisle with me.
Wow. They got over the religious difference
yeah.
thing.
I don't think it was more of family pressure he had, I think.
So here's the key question, and maybe it's a difficult one to really get into, but when you lose the love of your life and you lose your 13-month-old daughter, which, again, it gives me the chills even to say it to you, and I hate bringing it up, but at the same point, I think it's useful that you described you were suicidal at that point. You thought about it.
Well, what I said was, I can understand you don't have to be nuts to commit suicide. I used to say, I said, I don't drink. That's not a virtue. I just
Never drank?
I never drank. And I used to sit there and think to myself, I take out a bottle of scotch we always had liquor in the house, in my house as well. And I was going to just drink it and get drunk, and I could never bring myself to do it. And I actually thought about, you don't have to be crazy to commit suicide. If you've been to the top of the mountain, you think it's never going to be there again, just
listen to this part. This part's important.
Thought, maybe I just go to the Delaware Memorial Bridge and jump. But I had 2 kids. I mean, it wasn't. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't like I gotta commit suicide. It was like you've been to the top of the mountain and it's never going to happen again. You're never going to be okay. But I had, and I had. And my boys, when we started to date Jill. We started to date Jill.
Well, you did. Didn't the boys give you permission to date Jill?
More than that.
Yeah.
They came in one morning. We used to drive to school. We dropped them off at school, and Tommy Lewis would then drop me at the station on the way.
What's embarrassing about this MV gamer?
And so I'm in the back.
Dropping loads. If you want to hop in and talk, let me know, because you seem like a MAGA supporter.
Bathroom, and they walk in. I'm brushing my teeth. And Beau looked at Hunter and said, and they're 2nd or 3rd grade, I guess, maybe a little older, 4th, anyway, in their early grades. And Beau looked at Hunter and said, you tell him. I said, you tell him. Finally said, well, guys, what are you going to tell me? And Beau said,
what's up, J-Bo?
Dad, Hunter and I think we should marry Jill.
They liked her.
And they liked her. And then we went up to, my sister had a Jesuit friend who was, because I didn't know how to, everybody was wonderful.
Wait, which one's Hunter in this picture? Is that Hunter on the left? That looks like Hunter Biden. I'm guessing that's Hunter on the left.
Marry Jill.
They liked her.
And they liked her. And then we went up to, my sister had a Jesuit friend who was, because I didn't know how to, everybody was wonderful in my state when I lost my family. As the old expression goes, I had a lot of yentas who were, but they were really generous. But I didn't know how to have a wedding and who to invite. So our families, her family and mine, we all went to New York, and we got married at the UN chapel by this Jesuit priest who was a street priest up there, a friend of my sister's. And literally, spontaneously, in the chapel, when they said, who takes this woman? And both boys got up from their seats and walked up. No, I'm serious.
And they said, we do.
And they said, they stood with me.
How great is that?
It's wonderful.
It really is
It's
a wonderful story. Did you?
This guy is the best life story ever. So he was saying that how when he and Jill were dating, his 2 sons, Hunter and Beau. Oh, that was Beau that I was pointing out. Okay, his sons came up and said, we want to marry Jill. Like, we all, as a family, we want to marry. And then at the wedding, they stood there and said, I do, with President Biden. That is beautiful. I mean, he's got such a cohesive, tight family. And then you look at Donald Trump, not like a single one of his family members other than Don Jr. showed up to his trial. And then on the final day, his whole family, not his whole family, Tiffany Trump showed up, Eric showed up. But throughout his entire trial, did you see Melania there once? Were any of his families really supporting him?
Consider psychotherapy or speaking to a therapist at the time when you lose your family and you're in crisis?
I didn't.
Why do you? Were you
I don't know.
Because I remember when Eagleton admitted that he had therapy or he had shock therapy or something, and then Muskie cried. I think back on politics, it's like almost like if you're a politician, you're not allowed to say I'm in therapy.
Well, by the way, I strongly encourage people to go to therapy. I strongly encourage people to deal with mental illness. It's just like you're breaking a bone in your body.
Right.
But I guess because I had such an internal support I mean, I never considered it, but I wish I had. I remember when the boys were hospitalized.
What would Donald Trump say about interviews? Sorry for cutting off the interview. What would Donald Trump say about therapy is what I meant to say. Would Donald Trump ever say that therapy is beneficial, that you should be vulnerable and go get therapy? I feel like Donald Trump would never do that. President Biden is out here giving great advice.
I remember when the
Sky does Minecraft in the chat. I'm not going to give you any more attention, but homie, if you're gonna spam like pro-Trump stuff, you at least have to be willing to come on to stream and talk to me about your pro-Trump beliefs, or like you're literally just being a troll and shouting into the oblivion. Like you're not shouting that. Nobody's
boys were
listening.
hospitalized.
It's not changing anyone's mind. You have a great opportunity to come on this platform and talk to these Biden supporters about why Trump is so good. You can come and convince all 900 of us, but you won't because you know Trump's not.
Hunter had a fractured skull from the accident, and Beau broke literally every bone in his body. He was in a body cast, both arms, both legs, for a long time.
Is there anything worse than that? Not only losing your daughter, but when you see your kids.
No.
I remember my kids, if anything happened to them, like any break a bone or something, you go out of your mind.
Well, what happened was that,
I'm picturing Sky does Minecraft, and in real life, yeah, it's like Sticky Monkey said it. It's just Vladimir Putin sitting behind a laptop saying like Trump, like, come in here, Putin, talk to me, buddy.
When I came home, I came to the hospital one day after work, and there was a child psychologist from the University of Massachusetts that Teddy Kennedy had sent down.
Wow.
And I should have paid more attention. And, it was wonderful. We got engaged, but
Cheaper prices under Trump is what's guys. See, okay, if you guys were here from the beginning of the stream where I was talking about people that don't pay attention to politics, they have such a surface level point of view. They just think the economy, that's all the politics is. Prices were cheaper under Donald Trump. Now they're more expensive. Therefore we vote in the dictator. That is literally what Sky Does Minecraft says. He has such a surface level. He has a kindergartner's engagement with politics. Like my elementary school cousin has a deeper level of engagement with politics than this dude. I know you guys are saying like ignore the trolls, but it's fun. Like one of my passions is bringing in Trump supporters, talking to Trump supporters. If you guys watch my video, so I want to get some MAGA people in here. But this dude is clearly a troll. More electricity under Trump. All right, you are actually dumb. Like you actually deserve a ban for that. But whatever, just ignore.
I think I would have gone out of my way more, but I guess it's because I don't know. My family was my extended family.
Adam, you're so great. I'd love to see you do a live stream with you dissecting entire Trump speech or interview. Absolutely. We're going to do all of that. We're going to do so much of that and more. Imagine me watching my Mike Lindell debate live. That'll be fun.
I don't know. My family was my extended family was they enveloped us so much. I don't know.
That's right. When your gas tank is filled, when you have like your sister and your brother moving in and all this support system and,
my mother, my father.
Yeah, the loving family. I mean, it's so, I guess in a way you can get away without getting a therapist because.
But I encourage people to get therapists. I hope they don't read from this that you shouldn't get a therapist.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. Mental illnesses should not be viewed as anything different than a physical illness.
Agreed.
And it should be just treated. And they have real serious people and experts who can help.
Who do you think was the greatest president of all time? I have an answer for this, but I want to hear yours.
Well, I think...
He's like, me. If it was Trump, he would literally say me. Trump would literally say, I think I'm up there with Abraham Lincoln, yeah.
Well, I think Jefferson was one of my favorite presidents of all time. But also there were people who came along in periods. I think the fact that Roosevelt, came when he did and the way he did and the way he stood up. I hope you come to my office one day. I sat in that Oval Office for 8 years with Barack every morning at 9 o'clock. And before that I was chairman of Foreign Relations. So I was in and out of that office a lot.
Yeah.
In my job. And there was one portrait, a small portrait
Trump has literally
said
that.
Hanging over the mantel. And so I didn't realize at the time when we got elected that the outgoing president on inauguration has to be out by, I think, 10 o'clock. and the new guy or woman can't come in until I think 4. There's a space there, so
Like
you
a
can
hotel.
decide what desk you want, what drug, etc. So my brother Jimmy has better taste than I do. So I asked Jimmy, "Would you do my office?" And he had John Meacham, presidential historian, he asked help from. And I come walking in, and I look, and there's this big portrait of Franklin Roosevelt. And I admired Roosevelt, but I looked, I said, "Jimmy, why Roosevelt?" And Meacham spoke up and said, "Because no president has inherited a world of more disarray than him, than you." And so I said, "That's wonderful." And then I looked over, there's 4 more portraits, the small one of Washington, and then one of Abraham Lincoln. And I said, "Why Lincoln?" He said, "Because the nation's never been as divided since then." I said, "I'm getting the hell out of here."
What does this mean, FX Noise? I'm trying to figure this out. I'd like to see a Trump and Biden supporter debate, but reversed roles.
You're not kidding.
But-
I don't. I mean, you
But,
talk.
so there's a lot of people a lot of presidents that I admire the hell out of, and I think that
Enjoy yoga.
I think Barack was a hell of a president,
I did too.
and
Was it hard for you? I mean, you had spent so many years in the Senate. You were so prepared to be president yourself. Was it hard to be vice president? I would think in some ways you'd say to yourself, "Gee, I liked it better in the Senate."
Look at these two, the dynamic duo. This is crazy. This must be later in Obama's presidency, or is this recent? Is this during Obama? Just looks like a little bit older than when he first. You could tell this is like a little bit later in the
At
presidency.
least I had more to do.
I'll tell you a true story. When I was Barack became the de facto candidate in, I guess it was in the middle of August. And I'm riding home on the train as usual, and I get a phone call. And it's Barack. He said, "I want to do a background check on you." I said, "Barack, I don't want to be vice president. I can help you much more as a senior senator." I was fairly successful there. And he said, "Well, there's only 2 of you." Or I think that's what he said. And I said, "Barack," he said, "Well, there's only you." And I said, "Barack, I don't want to be vice president. I can help you better." And so I
This
go
is
home.
wild.
He said, "Do me a favor. When you get home tonight," he knew my family. "Talk to your family. Get back to me in 24, maximum 48 hours."
Obama told him
I
that.
said, "Okay, Barack." So I call. I said, "Let's get a family meeting in the back porch." We get a family meeting. And to my, not to my surprise, Jill says, "You know, you ought to do it." And I said, "What?" She said, "Otherwise you'll be asked to be Secretary of State and you'll be away all the time."
Yeah.
And then my son Beau gave a reason why I should do it, and Hunter and everybody. And my mom was living with us at the time because we just lost my dad. And I looked at my mom, I said, "Honey, you haven't said anything." She said, "Joey, let me remember." True story. She said, "Remember when they were desegregating Linfield, the neighborhood? There was, 70 homes built at one suburbia. And I told you, and there was a black family moving in, and there was people who were down there protesting. I told you not to go down there, and you went down. Remember that? And you got arrested, be standing on the porch with a black family.
Right.
And they brought you back, the police." And I said, "Yeah, Mom, I remember that." And she said, and then she looks at me, she said, "And Joey, remember you had that job as a lifeguard in that country club setting, but you wanted to be the only white guy working in the bucket on the east side in a black neighborhood?" I said, "Yeah, Mom, I remember that." She said, "Well, let me get this straight. When I called you and asked you about Barack when he defeated you back in the spring, you said he was bright, he was honest, he was really a capable guy." I said, "Yeah, Mom, what's your point?" She said, "Joey, first black man in history has a chance to be president, and you told him no."
Right.
I said, "Son of a bitch."
Yeah, that is crazy too. By the way, I forgot to bring that up. I was going to bring that up too about not only were you a star football player, but
President Biden's mom lived to age 92. She passed away in 2010. I knew she passed away around then, but I didn't know the exact year. So 92 years old. So, yeah, Biden's got time.
but you were a lifeguard. I mean, you really and you were the only white guy who was lifeguarding in this black community, right? I mean, you were the one guy.
I was.
Yeah.
But I learned so much. That's one of the reasons I wanted to go down. A lot of athletes had those jobs. That's how you got the jobs.
Another great story, and I want to point out something I pointed out earlier is a lot of Biden's policy prescriptions come from his lived experiences, whereas Donald Trump's lack of policy comes from his lack of lived experiences. And this is another great example. President Biden grew up with a lot of minorities. He was a lifeguard in a predominantly black area. I think he said he was the only white lifeguard there. And I think that also shaped a lot of the way he views racial dynamics in America. He understands the subtle ways that black people can be oppressed. He understands the subtle ways that white people can have privileges. Donald Trump doesn't understand any of this. He doesn't understand the intricacies of our society. He doesn't understand, literally, I just think he has a kindergartner's understanding of everything. There's a problem with the border that hasn't been solved for decades. Why don't we just build a big wall? It's just wild to me.
There were 3 big swimming pools in the city, and this was in the projects. And so what I realized, I mean, for example, I remember a guy named Jamie Rolls, who was a great ball player, and he went to Slasianum High School. And he came up to me one day, he said, "Do you have any jerry cans?" You know, those big cans.
Big jerry jug.
And I said, "No, what do I need a jerry can for?" He said, I need one. I said, "What do you, I'm going to see my grandmother. So what do you, he said, "Joe, you know I can't stop at any gas stations between here and North Carolina."
He used it as a bathroom. Yeah.
No, he used it.
But they go to urinating.
No, beyond that, he brought the extra gas in it.
I thought he was. I mean, he can't go to a gas station.
Yeah, you couldn't back then. This was 1965, I guess.
Oh, I thought he wasn't allowed. I thought he wasn't even allowed to use the bathroom. That's what my mind was.
It's
You're
true.
right.
Howard Stern's so funny. President Biden was talking about how a black man had to carry around a gas can because he couldn't go into a gas station. Howard Stern was like, "Oh, so he would use the bathroom in the gas can."
He was
couldn't
talking about needing gas.
Can you imagine?
That's a good story, though. It's really powerful what Biden's saying right now. Like, he lived through this. He genuinely lived through this, obviously, and he remembers it so clearly. And then in the same vein, people are going to say that Biden has a terrible memory. Someone said this earlier. He's telling a story from 60 years ago.
What a world. I mean,
But you know, I learned a lot, and I made a lot of friends.
Did you ever save anyone's life when you were a lifeguard? Was anyone ever drowning?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, well, half a dozen times. Usually younger kids, you know, but...
Who's there?
You do the thing with the whistle and then jump in the bathing suit? And
you got it.
No kidding.
Yeah, there's a big pool. There were 7 lifeguard stands.
Wow.
You got it.
See, that would define my...
He saved multiple lives. And, like, notice how chill President Biden is. I know I keep pausing it. You guys are going to be mad. But President Biden is one of the most chill people. He's literally just like, "You got it, man." I love his use
brag
of, like, the
about
word
that
man.
everywhere I went.
Well, by the way, I did it up in Lake Ontario, too, when I was in law school. But look, one of the things that...
What, you saved a dude's life when you were in law school? You were still doing the lifeguard thing?
Yeah, lifeguards, I mean, you know, people just need help sometimes. I mean, it's not
Interview's
like
not
so
live. It's
heroic.
old. It's a month old.
Yeah, it's a big
But I'm redoing it because people haven't seen it.
deal. We should play that up in the movie of your life.
Well, by the way, it got played up.
Chas burns. That is not true. So you guys are about this is a common thing that I hear. So a lot of MAGA people, so Chas Burns in the chat said he used to give them candy to rub his legs. That is not the story President Biden told whatsoever. President Biden told a story a few years back, I think when he was campaigning, that he was the only white lifeguard in a predominantly black area. And a lot of the black kids, I think what I recall him saying is they were fascinated by President Biden's leg hair because they hadn't seen a white dude with like super hairy legs like that. So they would always come up and like touch Biden's hair. They would like pull on Biden's leg hair and like play with it. And people somehow turned this story into like President Biden used to like invite young children back around the side of the pool and let them caress his leg hair. Like, people have distorted this story so much when it was a cute, sweet story. It was literally incredibly sweet story of these young kids being fascinated. And now all of a sudden they've spun it probably to project because their leader is literally buddies with Jeffrey Epstein.
Because when I ran the first time, they said it was true. I was running for it's called a county council.
County council, yeah.
After I got out of law school, we didn't have any money to buy a home or anything. So had this real estate agent. We were looking for rentals. Her husband and she had managed this pool called the Country Swimming Club, which was a private swimming club in suburban in a nice part of town that a number of judges put together because when they'd be up in the summer working in Wilmington, they had a place to go. And it was a very modest thing, and a nice pool, and had a little bathhouse and the rest, and it had a little gatehouse on it. And so she worked out that I could live in that gatehouse for free if I'd managed the pool. I was practicing law.
Wow.
But I just, as long as I hired her, we kept it going. And so when they ran against me, they said, why the hell would you vote for Biden? All he's ever been in his whole life is a lifeguard.
They threw it in your face.
Well, it was a good, I don't blame him.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
It was a good.
It is what a crazy career you've had. I mean,
Well,
you know.
it's not like there's any straight line to it. It's not like I started off to, do that. It's like, anyway.
Now
Yeah,
he's president
that's
of the
pretty
United
amazing.
States. That's wild.
So now, let me get back to some romance, if you don't mind.
Sure, okay.
So I don't know how long it takes you before you start dating, but when you're
Oh, I missed a few chats. Shadow Noor, great job as always. Thank you so much, Shadow, for the Fire Dragon. Thank you so much for the dono. I really appreciate that.
when you lost your wife, you were
About
devastated.
5 years.
5 years.
Pete Bacon, another MAGA troll. Why are all MAGA trolls so dumb? So Pete Bacon in chat said, nice border, Biden. You guys already know what I'm going to say, right? Everybody in chat already knows what I'm going to say to this person who's saying, nice border, Biden. Like, you guys already know where I'm going to go with this, right? There was a border bill. There was a border bill about to pass that would send more funding to judges, asylum judges, and the Border Patrol. Donald Trump nuked that for his own political gain. Homie, Pete Bacon, Donald Trump does not care at all about the border. Donald Trump could not give less of a shit about the border. He cares about his own re-election chances. President Biden on multiple occasions has tried to remedy the problem at the border, the decades-old problem, probably older than you, older than me, that has been so complex. Some of the best minds could not fix it. Donald Trump's idea is to build a wall, but I'm sorry that Joe Biden didn't come into office and just cleanly fix this problem, but he's tried multiple times and Donald Trump has axed it. Donald Trump has literally axed these bills, and Biden just signed an executive order. I mean, it's better than nothing, but the idea that you can blame the border on Biden after months of this. Also, Pete Bacon, or whatever your name was, if you want to come on stream and debate, that's like this whole thing. Come on, we'll chat about it.
Years.
Well, I had gone out other times, but I basically gave up going
Okay,
out.
so he's a troll. Nice inflation. Bro, see, notice these MAGA trolls. They won't come on and talk about it. They are literally, they call us soy boys or betas, beta males. This person, Pete Bacon, is probably sitting there in his pajamas right now while his mom's making him food. He is the definition of a beta male. Beta
It
male.
got
I'm sorry, but you're
complicated,
beta
you know.
male.
And that, I guess Jill and I went out 2.5, 3 years after I'd lost.
What did you feel like you were betraying your first wife?
No, it wasn't that. I just didn't feel. It became. It was like a celebrity issue. I go out.
Have you ever seen The Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. Yeah, and Trump keeps making that joke. He keeps saying, I heard he had a friend over for dinner. Like, the joke is funny the first time, but you can't just keep making that. Yeah, and then Hyena makes a good point. Deflation versus healthy inflation. So, like, the goal for a country, or at least America in particular, you want about 2 to 3% inflation every year. That is the target. And yeah, we were over that due to multiple issues, none of which were President Biden's fault. But the idea that things will get cheaper. Things will never get cheaper from here. That is called deflation, and that is how you know the economy is crumbling. It is crippled. If Donald Trump ever promises, I don't know if he said this, but if he ever says that things will get cheaper, nobody knows how the economy works if you're saying that things will get cheaper. That is literally deflation.
3 years after I'd lost.
What did you feel like you were betraying your first wife?
No, it wasn't that. I just didn't feel.
See you, Kevin.
It became. It was like a celebrity issue. I go out and Biden's going out, and when I did go out, we'd make sure the press didn't know I was going out.
Right.
Like for example, the first time Jill and I went out, we went to Philadelphia to see a movie, and I didn't like the movie, The Man and a Woman. It was
I remember that movie, Man and a Woman.
Yeah, I went up to Philly because no one in Philly, you couldn't go to locally, and so anyway, it was. But I just got really, really lucky, and Jill is incredible.
It's like sort of what happened with your first wife. Like
The movie he's talking about, A Man and a Woman, is from 1966. It's a romance drama. So their first date was around this time.
when you know, you were like, I think I'm going to marry this. Your brother found a picture of her, or he showed you a picture?
The DuPont company did a lot of business in Washington, and the Wilmington airport, they convinced an airline to come and fly once a day back and forth commercially. So I went down, and they had this big life-size banner in there of advertising that and the woman in the banner standing there was Jill.
Oh.
And turns out she had a friend in Delaware who asked her if he could take a picture of her and use her. And I remember going home and saying, I saw a beautiful woman. I mean, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And it turns out the blind date was with that woman.
How strange is
Just
that?
a genuine guy. Have you ever heard Donald Trump say, like, isn't that weird? Or like, yeah, man, Donald Trump is such a performative lunatic. Joe Biden is genuinely a good dude. If you haven't seen this interview before, this is your first time watching, just pay attention to how genuine President Biden is. Sorry, I've been missing these notes. Someone said in chat, love the work you're doing, Adam. When Biden wins re-election, make sure to take a much-deserved break. Oh, yeah. And also, thank you, everybody who is here on this stream. Thank you for all the support. It's not over yet, but thank you so much for joining me for my first live stream. I hope you guys are enjoying. Once again, these live streams are going to get more and more fun. Right now, I'm figuring out all the technical stuff, but soon, we're going to be watching MAGA debates on air. We're going to be doing MAGA debates on air. We're going to be going over Project 2025, going over January 6th, going over everything Donald Trump has ever done, everything Joe Biden's ever done.
Fate. And you, again, pretty much knew right away. It's like,
I did. I really did.
but here's something I heard about your relationship with your wife that blew me away. So you meet her, you go out with her, you find yourself, I want her to be my girlfriend, I want her to be exclusive with me, and you tell her this, and she says, well, I have a date with another guy.
That's right.
This is the best. She goes, I have a date with another guy, and I would feel dishonest not going out with him.
That is painful.
And that's got to be
painful.
the worst feeling in the world, when you're falling in love with someone and they're going out on a date with another guy.
Well, it was the second time I was within
Love all of you guys. Thank you. It's going to get more fun
3 days.
as the stream's
going
going.
the first time.
She said, no, I can't skip this date that I have with this guy.
Well, she did.
She did? Good for you.
Dark
But
Brandon
it was
just
pretty
came
much
out.
love at first sight again, right? I mean,
Well, for me, it really was. I mean, I just like we have the same family values. I got to meet her family. Her dad was a wonderful guy. She has 4. I tell every man he should marry into a family with 5 or more sisters. And she's the oldest of 5 because one of them will always love you, not the same one. One
Right.
will always stick up for you.
That's good.
But I got to meet them. I got to meet her grandparents. They were originally from South Jersey, Hamilton, New Jersey. Her dad ended up being the president of a savings and loan in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. But they were just wonderful people.
Why did you have to propose so many times? What was that all about?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I know why.
I don't know.
Turns out I asked Jill 5 times to marry me. And so I was down trying to get to see Nelson Mandela with the Black Caucus in South Africa. And I came home and I got off the plane commercially in Philadelphia, drove straight to her apartment in Wilmington, knocked. She said, oh, Joe, come on in. And I said, no. I said, look, you got my Irish up. I said, I'm going to ask you one more time. And I promised, just one more time.
Because you had asked 5 times in
That's
2
4
years.
times.
Yes.
4 times.
4 times.
Four
okay.
times? Holy
One
shit.
more time. I said, you don't have to tell me when, but if. Will you marry me? And she went like, okay.
Great.
And we'll let my sister later ask her why she said yes.
Dude this is a persistent ass dude. I mean, he ran for president multiple times too. I mean, he does not give up until he gets it. That is another life lesson right there from President Joe.
And why she had been hesitant. She said,
People are asking me to live stream the debate. That would be really fun, but the thing is, like, I checked to make sure I could watch this interview on stream, but the debate, they will take down my channel. Like who's hosting the first one? CNN's hosting the first one. They will strike down your entire channel. People have tried it before with Fox News, and you get strikes like almost right away. But there might be a way we can work around that. We'll figure it out.
she had fallen in love with the boys, and she said, I couldn't imagine disappointing them. What happens if it didn't work? How could we ever do that?
Right. Oh, man. Let me, when I have rock stars in here, I talk about their greatest hits. And, I'm going to go back to the Senate. A couple of things I'm going to mention. And the first thing is, back in, I want to say 94, Violence Against Women Act.
Yes.
This is something you were passionate about. You got that you were one of the creators of this. And then the other day, I'm watching the news. And now they're talking about the Supreme Court that they might undo it?
It's the proudest thing I've ever done. It took me years to get it done.
But who would be against that?
Well, I got to be careful what I say about the court. But
Why do you have to be careful?
Well, I think it's important.
He's been going harder since this interview on the court, though. Like, since this interview, he said more about the Supreme Court.
It's a joke. First of all, does it drive you crazy? This keeps me up at night, and I'm not exaggerating. It occurs to me every day that when Obama had his time to appoint a Supreme Court justice, he was going to appoint Garland. These maniacs in the Senate said, no way, not interested. And now we've got a Supreme Court That's nuts.
Yeah, this is sickening.
Well,
This is
it's a
sickening right here.
really extremely conservative court, maybe the most conservative court in modern history.
It is the most conservative court in modern history. He's right. But the fact that they struck down the appointment of Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court, because the reason they gave is, if I remember correctly, Obama was on his way out. It was like the last few months of Obama's term. So they said, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that. But then Trump did the same thing. The same people, Mitch McConnell, let Trump appoint a Supreme Court justice like in the same time frame, the last few months, which to me is just like, at that point, what do you even do when they're not playing by the rules? When Republicans aren't playing by the rules and they're genuinely, people, yeah, pack the courts, sort of, yeah, I guess that's one answer, but like genuinely.
And, one of the things that when they struck down Roe v. Wade, saying that it was not federal constitutionally guaranteed, it was a state issue. States could make those judgments. I think they don't, and one of the justices, Clarence Thomas, said, it's not that women don't have a choice. They can, in fact, change it if they, in effect, at a state level, but we'll see if they have any power.
That is even worse. So Obama had 10 months left, and they said he couldn't appoint it. That he had 10. Like, what do you? That still blows my mind. Like, there's a difference between Republicans going on Fox News and being hypocrites and like saying something that was the opposite of what they said before. There's a difference between Matt Gaetz saying he wants to ban TikTok one day and doesn't want to ban TikTok the other day. There's a big difference between that and Mitch McConnell stopping the appointment of a Supreme Court justice, the highest court in the country. The president had the absolute right to do that, and then letting them do that to the president. You can't compare this type of hypocrisy on a structural scale, on an institutional scale, when you're packing the courts, when you're putting conservative justices in the courts that will be there for decades. It's just, that's a different level.
I ain't seen nothing yet. You're going to see what will happen. If I'm elected president again in the second term, we're going to be able to overrule them, and not overrule, we're going to be able to make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again, because they're based on every state in the union being able to judge and get a majority vote in the Congress.
Do you think we can do? You think that?
I think
can be
we
done?
can do that, because I think there's going to be a real lesson learned on the mega Republican side of the aisle, because we're going to see a whole hell of a lot of state referenda, and they're going to want to restore it, and that's going to be able to be done.
Can I tell you a fantasy I had?
Sure.
I don't know if you're going to debate your.
MV Gamer said, by the way, even liberal legal scholars said overturning Roe v. Wade and giving it back to the states was correct. Can you name one liberal scholar that said that? Name one liberal scholar, child. Let's
I
see.
am somewhere.
What's up,
I don't know
Dalton?
when. I'm
Thanks for
happy
being
to
here,
debate him.
Dalton.
This is how I would handle it. Tell me if I'm nuts. Well, I am nuts, but tell me if this is accurate. I would stand there on stage with Trump, and I would repeat over and over again, excuse me, please find me 11,000 votes so that I can win the election. I would just repeat that over and over again. And then I'd say to the audience, what are we debating? A man picked up the phone and wanted to say, fake the election, give me 11,000 votes. I don't know.
He's on to something, but this is why Howard Stern is not in charge of Biden's debate prep, because if you just stood there and kept quoting the 11,000 line, number one, that would go over most people's heads. Most people haven't heard that. So it would be good to bring attention to that once, but there's a whole array of things you can hit him on, including convictions, election fraud, the phone call, the John Eastman legal theory, what he did on January 6th, which was sitting there and watching it all unfold on TV. I mean, Biden has to have like 10 different quips. He's got to have like 30 different things ready in his repertoire to just attack Donald Trump, to go after him. But I get what Howard Stern is saying here, because you can't have kid gloves with Donald Trump when you start debating him. You genuinely have to go for it. You have to, what am I trying to say here? Howard Stern's strategy of just repeating one line over and over is a very soft way to go about it. Joe Biden has to go out there and pin Donald Trump down, grill him on everything he said over the past few years. There are so many outrageous remarks that you can pull from. There are so many outrageous actions that have been verified by the January 6th committee, verified by people close to Donald Trump. There are so many ways you can grill Donald Trump on that. Not only grill him, but you have to pin him down. You have to ask the question multiple times to get him to answer. I think that Howard Stern is Howard Stern is making a good point. Someone said, you get the point he's making. Yeah. Call Donald Trump out on his election interference. Basically, and also teach the American public about stuff that they didn't know about. I think, honestly, the average voter hasn't heard the 11,000 votes tape. And I think Biden would be smart to call
Well, how
them out.
any American who loves this country, that's the end of the debate. You don't get to run if you're going to fix an election.
Well, look,
It's a good point.
I think I said on January 6th, when they were storming the Capitol.
And a police officer died.
Yep, and he would say nothing. He was sitting in that office that dining area off the Oval Office for 3 hours and said nothing. I was supposed
Yeah,
to
that's
make
what
a
I was.
speech
That's what I was saying. That's a really good point right there. Also, happy Pride, everyone in chat. It is Pride Month. Happy Pride,
on
everyone.
the economy that day. Instead, I made a speech from I was in Delaware on that issue because I was elected president, but I wasn't sworn in yet. The idea that we were actually
These people are so. Adam, show me where abortion is in the Constitution. All right.
not, I mean, it was derelict. It was almost criminal. He did nothing. He just sat there and watched what was happening. Not a single. And now he wants to he calls them patriots and victims, and and says he's going to pardon them all if he's reelected.
How do some of the guys that you served in the Senate with, I'm talking about Republicans,
They don't.
how are they going along with this?
Well, I don't think. Look, this is not your father's Republican Party.
No, it isn't.
This is, I had a lot of Republicans, including the old segregationists that I served with, who at least you could talk to, at least on matters relating to they were totally wrong on civil rights, but the fact is that they understood there's a need for a consensus to run this country. And I gave my word I'd never say their names, and I never will. In the last 3 years, I've had 7 sitting Republican senators. Well, 2 are gone now. 7 sitting Republican senators call me to tell me, Joe, I agree with you, but I just can't do it. He'll get me.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you get these calls in secret where guys go, listen, I can't say it publicly, but I'm for you and I'm going to vote for you. I'm a Republican, but screw it. I can't vote for this guy because he's talking about ending the democracy.
Well, they're not saying they're going to vote for me. They're saying, I agree with you.
And do you say to them, you coward, why don't you say something publicly? Where's Jeb Bush? Where's George Bush? Where are these guys? Why don't they say, hey, I'm interested in saving the democracy for our grandchildren?
That's a good point. Where is George Bush?
Well, I don't think the election's over yet on that score.
What do you think's going to happen? I can't imagine you're going to lose, but...
Well, look.
What is he saying about the election? Is he saying that George Bush could still come out for him? I don't know. But really quickly, they were just chatting about, or they're still chatting about the debates. I want to really quickly say, I think President Biden will have a great showing in the debate, and I think this interview only further reinforced that belief. I think when we look at Donald Trump and President Biden on stage together, it will become incredibly clear to anybody with a working brain which one is more coherent, which one is more compassionate, and which one is absolutely unhinged. I mean, if Donald Trump goes on his shark MIT rant on the debate stage, could you imagine Donald Trump starts talking about sharks? But the format that they agreed to was actually super beneficial to President Biden because there's no live audience. Donald Trump plays really well to a live audience. He's a showman. He feeds off of the audience's energy. So there's no live audience. Their mics get cut off after a question is asked or answered because in the last debate in 2020, or the first debate of 2020, they were cutting each other off. Donald Trump was cutting President Biden off ruthlessly. It became a crazy debate, too much crosstalk. So a lot of these rules are in President Biden's favor. Biden 2024, all these people, the one person spamming Trump 2024 in chat, yeah, thanks for deleting that. These people are, that's literally what it is. We have an army. They just have their 3 phrases that they use over and over. That's the silent majority, or we're the silent majority.
If he doesn't win, there's going to be a bloodbath.
This chat is a silent majority.
Can you
things
imagine?
Like that. Here's what bothers me most. We have a fundamentally different value set. For example, when he was in Paris, he wouldn't go to that gravesite and said they're losers, these men and women who were killed in battle defending America. Losers, and I'm glad I wasn't there because I think I would have, my son's in one of those graves. In one of the graves back here, not there. And The idea that they're losers and suckers.
And McCain's a loser. He said McCain's a loser.
Well, McCain's a loser.
Can you imagine?
When John McCain got out of prison and was released, he came work for me. He was on the Senate liaison officer. We traveled over 100,000 miles together. And he was like an assistant because he worked for the...
It's a fabulous man.
New poll in chat, everyone. Will Trump debate? Go answer the poll in chat. Will Trump debate? Jesse Langland said, do you think Biden is doing enough to change the system to favor the poor more than the rich? I think President Biden is doing what he can. President Biden doesn't really have a way to completely overhaul the system or change it in like a Bernie Sanders-esque way, the way that Bernie Sanders promised. That isn't really feasible when you get into office and you see all of these checks and balances, all of these roadblocks put up by Congress. But overwhelmingly, yes, Biden has done everything he can. He's erased a lot of student loan debt. What he's been able to, the Supreme Court, of course, steps in. He's passed a lot of bills that help middle to lower class families. I mean, the child tax credit isn't really talked about a lot nowadays because it's a few years old, but like the child tax credit was amazing. He capped the cost of insulin at $35 for older people. There are so many ways that he has benefited poor or like middle class to lower class people. Jansky said, Adam, let me mod for you, please. Absolutely. I can mod you after the stream. I'll mod you.
Man, I got to meet him before he died.
No, he's a straight up guy, man. And
Yeah.
tough as hell. And but I find I can't fathom a president of the United States of America saying that the folks who died defending this country were suckers and losers.
But I can't forget him. I can't fathom a guy walks into the voting booth, especially a military member or somebody, and would vote for someone who says military guys who die are losers and suckers. In other words, I'm not disappointed in him. I'm disappointed in my fellow Americans. And maybe you can't say that because, you know, the thing I do like about you is I love this about you. You're able to embrace people who didn't vote for you. And to me, that's fundamentally good. And I want that in a president.
Well, I think so. Look, I think there's an awful lot of...
He's got to go a little bit harder with some of these people. President Biden's great at saying stuff like, I'm not a president for Democrats or Republicans. I'm a president for all Americans, or telling Nikki Haley voters that they're welcome in his large tent. But when I did my interview with Adam Kinzinger, if you watch my interview with Adam Kinzinger, he says this critique. He says he wishes the Biden administration would reach out to either him, Adam Kinzinger, or at least Liz Cheney or some of these Republicans, and they probably will. I think the Biden campaign will reach out to Adam Kinzinger. They've been hiring some of his aides, but there are definitely ways that Biden could reach out to some of these. I think Kinzinger would be an amazing voice for the Biden campaign, or even Liz Cheney if she would do it.
Military personnel who are not enamored with Trump. I don't think it's and a fair number of them voted for me in 2020.
Good.
I mean, I don't know the names, but my point is, you know, I think.
Oh God, that's our first ad.
Look, you're an expert on the topic I raise. I wonder what you think. How much do you think
Someone said, when is it time to play hardball? Probably like 2 or 3 years ago.
I wonder what you think. How much do you think the modern media has altered the landscape?
The internet, these apps, it has now generated a hatred and viciousness where people who used to be in the minority have found each other, and it's a growing movement. And I am so afraid for our democracy right now.
It's not even that, like, that's part of it, but the fact that each algorithm is so tailored to that person, and then each algorithm is also made to boost the extremes to the front page. So if they're talking about social media, like whether you're on Twitter or TikTok or Facebook, YouTube is a little bit different algorithm-wise, but all of the stuff on the front page of Twitter is the most extreme stuff, and it is so ultra-tailored to you that you can just keep going deeper and deeper into this rabbit hole without ever coming out on the other side. TikTok is easily the worst with this. Like TikTok, if you watch one video about cats, you will have a hyper specific feed about cats. So like forever, like it will just get deeper and deeper into this cat rabbit hole. So taking that over to politics, if you watch one video about let's say like the economy being bad, you will go down this deep rabbit hole where it's ultra tailored, targeted towards you, and that allows you to get radicalized way easier than before. You're not getting pushback, you're not hearing the other side, you're not getting TikToks about how, hey wait, the economy is actually good in this regard, this, that. No, you are only getting this feedback loop over and over of hearing what you want to hear. And yeah, people are saying Twitter is vile. Twitter is absolutely terrible nowadays. It feels like Twitter used to be all right, but now when I open some video, some meme on Twitter, and you scroll the replies, it's just more videos. Or like there was a while there when there were just fight videos on my homepage. I don't follow any accounts like that. It's just pure politics. But I'd open up Twitter and it would just be people like fighting. I don't know.
People would embrace anyone who says
Elon's trying to turn me into a
get into
Well,
fighters.
look, one of the things is that there are no editors anymore.
No, everyone says everything.
And you know, it's and I think that I think there's a lot of really. I'm doing the gridiron dinner on Saturday,
Right.
and one of the things, the serious thing I'm going to say at the gridiron dinner is that, you know, paraphrasing Jefferson, he said the choice between what we have and a free press, I'd pick a free press.
Damn right.
Well, guess what? The free press is not speaking up as much as it used to.
Nope.
And I don't know whether, I'm not sure. I haven't figured it out yet. But I think it's coming around. And I'm not blaming the press. I'm just saying that I think some of them are worried about attacking him, worried about taking him on.
Yeah, everybody's scared. I don't know why they're so scared. I don't get it. And, you know, and by the way, did you ever think you'd live in an America where Republicans are for Putin? I mean, I bang my head against the wall. Thank God you got the whole, you know, the Ukraine.
Howard Stern's questions are like me every day. That's literally like what I wake up and ask myself every day. And he had the opportunity to ask the president the same questions, and he
Who
did
the
it.
hell?
I spent a lot of time in Ukraine, and I'll tell you what.
How is everybody in this chat doing? Quick shout out to everybody in here. Kathy O'Brien, Bike Mess, Hey MJ, Ravens Truth, Patty R, Accidental Seller, Orange Doggy, Cheryl Gibson, Space Karen, I've seen you a lot, James Lewis, I probably butchered your last name, Mona, Cannabis Queen 42, Flory Lee, Lavender, David Markson, Jeff Nelson, Carta, Rogue, N7 Dragon, Elizabeth Fowler, Julie, all these people, thank you so much. Terry and Darlene, Julia, thank you. Thank you so much.
We've not gotten that done. I think you might see the beginning. Kissinger, before he died, 10 days before he died, got a message saying that, said, not since.
Hi Q, hi Wyatt, Mylon, hi Professional Demonstrator, Q, Cheryl Gibson, I already read Q's name, Orange Doggy, we see Salt Life FL, Dalton, what's up, Julie W, that Opal guy, I see you all the time in my comments, thank you, that Opal guy. Awoo, that Opal guy, this interview is only 10 minutes longer, but I'll be streaming for however long I feel like. I'm chilling tonight. Jesse Pinkman, what is up, homie? Don't tread on me. Say my name. You know all the references. G. Jaya, what's up? Uncle Fatty. I see you. You're a Midas. I think you're a Midas person. I see you in the Midas chat a lot. Christoph K, Nanette Snowden, some cat on the internet. Gerard Frank, what is up, Gerard? I DM with you a lot. You're a cool dude. I gotta say hi to everyone now. What's up, Mona, Space Karen, Wyatt? I think I've said some of these names. Kathy, Jansky, James, Summer Virgo, Random Rapper, what is up? Lavender, Billy Jelly, Sticky Monkey, Mark Livingood, Jose Sisioma, definitely butchered their last name. I'm sorry about that. Stacy Hutchinson, Baby, Lisa Purdy, Clarissa, Fuddy Duddy, Jeff Nelson, The Ligma Owl, Conley Dion. Sorry, this is going on for longer than I thought it would. I didn't think I'd be reading it. Pat McKay, Pat Man, Dalton, what is up? I've said Dalton. Dalton, what is up again?
Has Europe not looked over their shoulder at Russia with dread?
Oh, we're not done with the
until
stream
now?
though.
Yep.
You've strengthened NATO, you've expanded it, you've moved it.
I can't thank you enough for that.
Well, it's not just me, but the point is I work really hard to spend hours and hours and hours doing this. And the idea that had we not gotten this done, I think you would have seen a beginning of disintegration of NATO.
I know. Did you ever think you'd see that in your lifetime?
What's up, Sheila?
No.
What's up, Kevin?
No.
Except that he says Trump thinks we should not have NATO. He thinks we should not. He doesn't support NATO, and he thinks they're not inviting Putin to invade Ukraine because they not putting or any other NATO partner because they're not putting enough money up.
Can you believe there are two people who believe that? I mean, you think about all the men who died in World War II fighting Nazis and keeping this democracy alive. And now it's crazy. Speaking about service, and again, because I was asking you about loss, the loss of your son was devastating. But you know what strikes me? Here you were a U.S. Senator, and you know the song by Creedence Clearwater.
Thank you so much, Shadow Noor, for the donos. I appreciate that more than you know. They said, thanks so much for covering this exceptional interview. I read the headlines but did not dig in prior. That is actually exactly why I decided to cover it, because I watched it and I was like, wow, this interview is absolutely amazing. And everyone I asked had not seen it. But I paused during the Beau Biden section, so let's listen to this. I'm going to not interrupt too much unless it's something really important.
And again, because I was asking you
the
about
section
loss,
is really powerful.
The loss of your son was devastating. But you know what strikes me? Here you were a U.S. Senator, and you know the song by Creedence Clearwater, I'm Not a Fortunate Son. Your son, he's a son of a senator, joins the military and was in Iraq.
Well, look, Beau,
Bro, no shot. Did they just give me an ad at this fucking moment? No shot. Sorry, we're going back. That is really horrible of you to
was in Iraq.
Well, look, Beau, my son Beau should be sitting here instead of me. He's more capable than I am. And he was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. And one day I came home. I'd come home all the time. And he came over to the house. He was living in Delaware, and he said, Dad, what are you doing on Friday? I said, what do you need? He said, I need you to pin my bars on me. I said, pin your bars on you? What the hell are you talking about? He said, I joined the National Guard. And facetiously said, somebody's got to do this anyway. So what happened after that was...
Were you in shock that he joined the National Guard?
No, I wasn't in shock. It didn't surprise me. It just, I wasn't encouraging him to do it. He was sitting Attorney General. He had to give up the Attorney General's job because you either have to work for the president or for the state.
So he was Attorney General at that point.
He was Attorney General. Now he could join the National Guard and be accountable to the governor. But when the Guard unit got sent overseas, he got an exception to be able to give up the response. He wasn't allowed to do any of the Attorney General job. Turned it back over to a Republican who'd been there before.
Wow.
And went for a year. The problem was he lived next to one of those burn pits. He came back with a Bronze Star. He came back with a Conspicuous Service Medal, but he also came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. Mm-hmm. Like, the brain injuries out of Iraq are extreme, like they were the people in 9/11, all those firefighters, because of the toxic fumes.
You're convinced that the reason he got brain cancer is...
I know it.
And the worst part is, not the worst part about this, but like the terrible part is when President Biden told this story one time, MAGA tried to warp it. President Biden said something to the effect of, my son died because he was in the war. And he was saying because he got this brain tumor from being in the war. And MAGA immediately tried to fact check him and say, no, your son died due to brain cancer like years after serving, when it was directly drawn. I mean, it's just why would you attack somebody on that?
Determined, yeah, and a lot of them did. A lot of them. It's because of the toxic.
Accidental seller. No worries at all. I see your chats. Sif, thank you for the $5. I really appreciate that. Steve McGugan, thank you so much. Something cool too. I'll be doing those little icons in the chat soon, so you'll be able to send emojis with like my face, Mike Lindell's face. We'll do blue hearts. We'll do cool stuff.
Yeah, just like we're convinced what happened.
And yeah,
with all those firefighters.
Yep.
And before that, he had, as an assistant U.S. attorney in Philadelphia, he had volunteered to go to Kosovo to help them set up a criminal justice system. They awarded him. He received a medal from the Kosovo.
What a kid! What a kid! How did you know that he had? Did he call you and say, "Dad, I've gotten a horrible diagnosis"?
Yeah, I learned when he learned. He let us know. But he had to come home, and it just kept getting worse, and that's when he realized they did the analysis. And then he was in Walter Reed for a long time. And I wrote a book called Promise Me, Dad. He knew his time was up, and he one night we're having a dinner at our home before he was incapacitated, hospitalized. And he said, Dad, can we talk? And I said, sure. And he said, look at me, Dad. Promise me, Dad. Promise me, Dad, that you'll not leave public life. I know when I go, you'll want to quit. You'll want to quit. And he looked at me and said, Dad, give me your word as a Biden. Give me your word.
Wow.
Look at me. I'm serious. I give my word on the health of my family. And he said, promise me, Dad, you won't step back. And I made the promise. And that's what I ended up writing the book about. Not to sell the book, but so my great-grandchildren and great-great knew who he was.
Wow.
He was, before he passed away, no, I should be. Last thing he said before he passed away, I mean, literally we were in the hospital bed, Hunt and I with him, lying in bed with him. He looked at me and said, I'm not scared, Dad, it's okay. I'm not scared, it's okay. He was gone within. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've had to deal with a lot of loss.
Well, there's a lot of heroes out there that dealt with what I've dealt with and more without the family I had.
So humble. He just said there's a lot of heroes out there that have dealt with what I've had to deal with, but without the family I have. I hate to draw this comparison in this moment, but like, what would Donald Trump say? He would literally be like, yeah, like I've been through tremendous things, more tremendous things than anybody's ever been through.
Support. I'm not joking.
No, I know
There
you're
are
not.
thousands of heroes get up every day, put one foot in front of the other, and they got nobody. They got nobody to help them with that child that survived or with that whatever it was, and they're incredible.
Now I understand why you've said to your family, I'm the president of the United States, but if any of your grandchildren or your children have to get in touch with you, you said, I'll leave any meeting and I will answer the phone.
That's true. And the other thing, I have a rule, and I mean this sincerely. When I ran for re-election after the accident, I realized that I had a million bosses, being from
Thank you for the dono, Deanne. Thank you for the dono, Jared. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that. I appreciate our chats too. I'll get that YouTube Premium. Adam, please cover Biden more. Even if you keep Trump headlines and thumbnails, throw in a Biden accomplishment. Absolutely, that is one of my goals: is to be weaving in more Biden accomplishments and just selling him more, because it's really easy to bring Donald Trump down, but boosting Joe Biden is way more important. And sometimes we get lost in that. I've gotten lost in that for sure. Other people at Meidas I've talked to about this, how it's really easy to attack Trump, but then it's really important to boost up Biden, of course. Someone asked earlier, I think Tom Mueller, his name was, if I have any plans on getting into politics after like content creation and stuff. Probably not. I don't think anytime any content creator has tried to go into politics afterwards, I've seen this happen before. You think that, oh, you have a platform so you can run for Congress. It doesn't work out. You need to be spending years, almost like decades, building this infrastructure in a city to be able to run and to be able to win. From my opinion, I feel like you need to be laying the groundwork for that and meeting people. And right now I'm just so focused on content creation that would be a radical change. I mean, I could do it in 10 years for sure. There's no saying that I won't, because I'm only 21. So it's like I could do that. But for the most part, I don't think that content creators going into politics has ever really worked well in the past. I could break that mold. I don't know.
Only 1 million people.
Right.
But if I had to choose when they're coming up, if I had to choose between going to a parent-teachers meeting and a vote that wouldn't matter, I'd went to the parent-teacher. I say so. And so during one of the Supreme Court hearings,
Thinking about going
Okay.
solar, but
We've
not
gotten like,
sure
I need to
whether
get
it's
YouTube
worth it
Premium.
for
I know,
your
guys.
home.
I know.
Well, before you
really bright guy, I don't want to embarrass him, mention his name, was having family trouble. And I learned about it 4 days before the hearing began. And I told him to go home. He said, no. I said, I'm going to fire you if you don't go. Go home and take care of your family.
Yeah.
And so I have a rule everybody knows in my office. If you have any problem relating to family, you don't have to tell me what it is. Just look me in the eye and say, I can't be. I got to take care of things.
I want to thank you for doing this today. I want to thank you for your compassion.
I didn't want
The
this
reason
interview to be over.
I'm
It's
so
so
excited
good.
to talk to you was because I wanted to understand the tragedy in your life and how you dealt with it, And you're the kind of leader I love, because we're lucky to have you in the Oval Office and serving as the father of the country. Because if you're a good father to your family, which you are, I know you'd be a good father to the country. And I want to thank you for providing a calming influence, an organized administration post-COVID, getting that vaccine out. I remember what the world was like at that point.
Yeah, people were saying like it would probably be more helpful for me to go into some sort of news political commentary. Yeah, like being like a journalist to a higher degree and doing what I'm doing now to a higher degree would probably be better than running for some sort of office, because that just seems like, and also a lot of my skills, like what I've found is that one of my main skills is in communication, and I guess that works well for a politician, but I feel like when you're in communication, you can do a lot more in the media space. I can influence more people.
Getting NATO, getting us to feel comfortable, standing up to Putin. I could read your greatest hits, but I'm being given the high sign. But
my bad. Some of these donos I've been missing. So Just Alpha said, my dad was in the Air Force. Or sorry, my bad. My dad was in the Army, and I'm about to join the Air Force. I'm beyond nervous for this November because of how dangerous the GOP has become. They are no different than the Nazis nowadays, for real. I mean, yeah, pretty close. Noni Stress Relief said, great work. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you guys all for watching. Bikemas said, Amock, I love the stream. Biden wipes the floor with Trump. No contest. Yeah, we're about to see that in 10 days if this debate does happen. And you guys debated on this poll. Skills, huh? Someone said, so you guys said on this poll, will Trump debate? You guys overwhelmingly voted no, but I can't lie. I honestly think Trump will show up to the debate, and I think it's a function of his ego. I think his ego is so big that he could not pull out of this debate, even if his advisors told him you should pull out of this debate. I think Donald Trump would still go do it just because of his ego. Now, could he drop out? Absolutely. Absolutely, he could still do that, but I think he knows that would look weak. I think he genuinely has gaslit himself into thinking that President Biden is actually senile. Like Donald Trump is actually caught in some sort of algorithm that's telling him that President Biden is senile. So he thinks he's going to walk on stage. He's going to wipe the floor. He's so cocky. He's so egotistical. I just don't see him canceling. And he launched at the opportunity so quickly to do the debate. It just seems like he really genuinely wanted to do it. I know you guys think he won't. You could drop some arguments in the chat and we can talk about it. We can talk about why you think he won't. And I see where you guys are coming from. Like, I agree. But just from my personal point of view, I feel like his ego is too big.
The incredible large growth in the jobs, unemployment rate down. I don't know what people are looking for in a president, or maybe it's that people don't feel like they're getting enough or something. I don't know what it is, but I'll give you your greatest hits.
It's that most people have not been paying attention. Most people aren't plugged in like we are. We're obviously in the minority when it comes to politics. We agree, sorry, I was reading the chat. We pay attention to politics a lot more, and the average person, so I was talking to my friend about this, who doesn't pay attention to politics whatsoever. He's apolitical, and he probably leans more liberal. So if I talk to him about stuff, he's okay with gay marriage. He supports gay marriage. He believes in climate change. He thinks marijuana should be legalized. He thinks we need education reform. So there are so many things that we agree on. He agrees with the liberals on. But when I talk to him about Biden's presidency, what he tells me is Donald Trump sucked. He saw Joe Biden, President Biden, come in, and he wanted hope. He thought that everything was going to get so much better, but all he saw, from his point of view, my friend, was that things got more expensive. He goes to the grocery store, he goes to the gas pump, things get more expensive. That is genuinely, I'm not lying, that is genuinely his only engagement with politics, and that's not even political. That's his only understanding of politics right now, is that President Biden becomes president, things get more expensive. If I asked him about the bipartisan infrastructure bill or the CHIPS Act or any of these bills or the Made in China bill that Joe Biden passed, he would not know about any of these things. He would not really care because things got more expensive. That is genuinely his only engagement with politics, and that's the problem right there. So Howard Stern's asking, like, what more do people want in a president? But it's not President Biden's fault that the media landscape is so bad that they constantly talk about us going into or heading into a recession. People were ringing that alarm bell for years, but we got out of it. And now what people call it is a vibes session. If you ever heard this term, it's like a vibes session. So people are just going off the vibes. Things feel more expensive, so they call it a recession. And again, I don't think it's okay to undermine people's lived experiences. So when somebody tells me that things got more expensive, the technique isn't to go at them with facts and say, well, actually, real wages are outpacing inflation growth, and actually, we had the lowest inflation in the world if you look at the stats. It's undermining their lived experiences like that isn't really a great technique, so you gotta kind of meet them where they are, step into their frame of reference, and say, like, I understand where you're coming from. It's the same thing when people are mad about like Israel and Palestine. If somebody says they won't vote for President Biden because of Israel-Palestine, there's a lot of directions you could take that, but oftentimes it's just the same thing where it's a very similar thing.
Americans are covered for less than $10 a month. Knocking off a few ISIS leaders, cutting the emissions in half. I mean, you've always been an environmentalist. Geez, even the marijuana reform laws, enough with sitting there and fighting that battle. Respect.
Yeah, JD Lady said it perfectly. Unless it applies to them directly, they cannot relate and have no intention. And that is absolutely true. Genuinely, all the time, I see this with conservatives. I have a friend I grew up with. I talk about this in my videos a lot because this story just like it's the epitome. It's the microcosm of conservatism. My friend grew up always talking about being pro-life. He was anti-abortion constantly, and then he got a girlfriend sometime in college, had a pregnancy scare, and all of a sudden he's incredibly pro-choice. He thinks that women should be able to choose. The same thing with people being homophobic until they have a niece or a cousin that is gay. We've seen that with Republican politicians. The same thing with not understanding the struggle of healthcare until you run into the healthcare system and you realize that, holy, this shit is really messed up. Time and time again, we see conservatives can't relate to things unless it affects them personally. And even when it affects them personally, they struggle to wrap their heads around the fact that other people struggle with this idea. Conservatives are not great with empathy or stepping into other people's shoes, and that's why you often hear them say things like, oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. If you work harder, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you'll be fine in America. But that's not how it works. I mean, there are genuinely reasons why certain minority groups can't just pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and it's so institutional that it's like, winter is coming. Thank you so much. Don't sell yourself short. 236,000 subscribers. Year later, Congress calls you. Go. Maybe. Also, I love your name because I was just watching Anyone watch House of the Dragon in here? Offside question. Or anyone like Game of Thrones? I love Game of Thrones. Someone said Asian 432. The orange is nonetheless the epitome of bonehead, and the sycophant followers are the worst. Trust me, I agree. I absolutely agree. Asian 432. But yeah, House of the Dragon was pretty good.
For Marriage Act, what the hell is with people with this gay stuff? Who cares if someone's gay?
Yeah, who cares? I want to go over really quickly for you guys, no, not Reddit, sorry. I'm trying to pull up this new 538 election forecast. This is pretty, yeah, what the hell is a bootstrap? Yeah, sometimes I wonder that. But, really quickly, this is 538's new model, and I know you guys don't agree with the polling, or some of you guys think that the polling is not predictive of the election, and I agree with that. I agree that the polling isn't exactly predictive, but I think it's worth looking at. Oh yeah, you guys, some people watched House of the Dragon in here. It's so much fun. Yeah, Jesse Pinkman is hanging out with Walter White watching Game of Thrones. Was that porn? No, it was not. It was my Reddit. Okay, so who is favored to win the 2024 presidential election? 538 uses polling, economic, and demographic data to explore likely election outcomes. And redo the poll on the debate, someone said. Yeah, you guys love House of the Dragon. So 538 is incredibly interesting. Let me scroll down a bit. So they run 1,000 simulations to see how the election could go. And right now, Donald Trump wins 503 of the simulations. President Biden wins 493. When I checked this the other day, President Biden was up. I think he won like 530 of the scenarios. So President Biden was up, but it changes. It's constantly updating. And they update it based off polling data, based off fundamentals from other elections. It's actually a pretty good model. I know a lot of you guys really don't trust the polling, don't believe in these models, but it's worth checking this out just so you don't get complacent. Yeah, I'm from Indiana, right? Hoosier fam. The Stern interview was awesome. Yeah, Homelander's also back. I love the boys. We can talk TV all night, guys. We can talk so much other than politics, but the Howard Stern interview was great. And the cool thing is about these live streams is you guys can literally shoot me links. At some point, you guys can shoot me links, shoot me tweets, and we can find stuff to go over on stream. So the Howard Stern interview one was fun. It would be fun to go over Trump one, even though Trump is annoying. I think it would be fun to live debunk him. I was even watching the 2020 presidential debates last week just to see what it's going to look like if Biden and Trump debate. And I was like, this would be fun to live stream. Just watching the 2020 debates, Biden and Trump go at it, just live stream it. I could do it and I wouldn't get copyright struck. Or even going back to the primaries, there's so many fun things that we could live stream. There are so many videos. We could live stream some of my older debates too. That's going to be really, really fun to do. But yeah, let's do one more poll. Let me see what you guys think about this. Who do you think will win the 2024 election? And I don't want you guys to give what you want to happen. Of course, everybody in this chat, except for Sky Does Minecraft and whatever that other dude's name was, of course they don't. But who do you think will win the 2024 election? Let's hear this. Who do you think will win? Oh, wait. No, I messed it up. Yes for Biden, no for Trump. My bad. I didn't mean to. Let me redo this. Sorry. Who will... Can you guys tell this is my first YouTube live stream? My bad. Biden or Trump? No, I didn't mean to put Mr. Biden. Whatever. Okay. Biden or Trump? Obviously President Biden, not Mr. Biden. Someone said, lol, look at your poll. I know. Obviously, we all want Biden to win. You guys think Biden will win? I absolutely think Biden will win, and I'll give you a few reasons right now. I'll give you a few reasons why Biden will win. But first, vote in the poll. Evolved Monkey says, I think we're effed. See, I get that. So here's been my thought process over the past few months, and you guys might have heard me talking about this on my show, but like basically a few weeks ago, I'd say about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I was making bets with my friends that Joe Biden would absolutely cruise to re-election. I was making bets and I was saying President Biden is going to win overwhelmingly. I made like a $200 bet with my friend because I was so confident. But over the past few weeks or months, it's kind of switched. I kind of think the election is closer than we want it to be. Of course, I think President Biden right now has about a 65% chance of winning. And then I think as the election nears, it'll go up to about 70 or 80. And what is this based on? Literally just my intuition, because all of these models say the opposite. They say it's a coin flip. But number one, the obvious one, President Biden beat Donald Trump in 2020. Donald Trump's win in 2016 was an absolute fluke. He beat Hillary Clinton by a few thousand votes in a few key swing states. It was an absolute fluke. Then 2020 comes around, and of course, President Biden wins. He sweeps. He wins Georgia. That is, like, Georgia going red was so unexpected, but Biden is popular among certain groups. I talked about this earlier, but President Biden was Barack Obama's VP, and that makes him pretty popular with minorities in America. Black voters actually really like President Biden, and they're a big reason he won the primary back in 2020. I think that's a big reason. Number two, we have all these independents, or let's say conservatives that are disillusioned with Trump. And right now, the biggest coalition in America, the Bulwark's Sarah Longwell always says this, the biggest coalition in America right now is the anti-Trump coalition. It's composed of liberals, far left people, centrist people, certain Republicans. There is this entire coalition of people who hate Trump, and now the onus is on us to be mobilizing these people. Yeah, Donald Trump will easily lose. Oh, now we're getting Sky Does Minecraft back in here. I don't know where he disappeared to. But also, obviously the independents probably don't like Trump because of January 6th, but as inflation continues to ease, as interest rates get cut as we get closer to the election, and as we start to see, as people start to realize it's Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, I think the polling will correct, and that's part of the goal of this debate coming up in about 10 days is to show the American people who this election is between. Because right now, a lot of people either refuse to accept or fail to understand what's going on in chat here. So many people fail to understand that the election is between Donald Trump and President Biden. They think that it's just like, they don't even know who the candidates are. So putting them both on a debate stage and having them side by side, that should help. People will realize who this election is between. And then from there, I think Biden just cruises to re-election. I think that we're going to be worried for a while, but I definitely think it'll start to come around. The polling will start to come around and we'll realize. But yeah, I might have to end this stream soon. Thank you guys so much. Thank you everybody that tuned in. Leave a blue heart before you go if you can. Stacy, thank you. Greg, thank you. Bebe B, thank you. Neuropilot, thanks for everybody who's been in here for the full past 2.5 hours. This means more than you know. You guys are the best fan base in the world. I see you guys in my comment section leaving blue hearts. I see you guys in the chat. I read everything, even if I can't respond to it all. I love the way you guys interact. I love your guys' opinions. I love when you guys give me your opinions. I feed off of your guys' opinions, and I love to push back too. Like when we were talking about whether or not President Trump would debate, I think it's really fun to disagree with stuff. disagree about stuff with you guys. So yeah, thank you guys so much. The best fan base in the world. And rude, why am I rude? And trust me, these debates will get better and better. They will get so much fun. Sorry, these live streams will get better and better. Imagine a live stream in a few weeks where I'm watching my Mike Lindell interview, some MAGA supporter in chat, like that Sky Does Minecraft person, is disagreeing, so we pull them into the live stream and we have a live debate. You guys can dunk in the chat, you guys give me talking points, we do research on Project 2025 after, we can read through the entire Project 2025 document. Could you imagine knowing Project 2025 verbatim, so some MAGA supporter at work is talking to you and you know what to say exactly? These research streams are going to be awesome. We're going to get better and better at them. I'm going to get to know you guys. If you're here consistently, I'll start to know your name. Everybody except for you, Sky Does Minecraft. But yeah, thank you guys so much. This was a great live stream. I hope you enjoyed the Howard Stern interview with President Biden. I'll be posting videos tomorrow morning, so I'll see you then. And everybody have a great night, except for Sky Does Minecraft.